Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Know Your Gear Live QA episode 274. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. And I am just clicking around making sure I know what I'm looking at. So, all right, new week, new weekend, another week of guitar. We have some stuff to talk about, maybe some follow-up stuff from last week, maybe just some new stuff, and of course, all the subjects you guys want to talk about, which is pretty much what this is all about. It's to see what you guys want to talk about each week, whether it's the industry, guitars, you know, anything, I guess. And we have something cool to do on the show, and I don't want to say the word, and you'll know why in a second. But we have something that just involves this. So maybe somebody will be getting something. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. So let's get into it. As always, if you guys pay attention, there is blue names, which are our moderators like Amanda and Grumpy Mike Guitar. And, so they're here helping us out with all the things we need done. And then of course there are green names like Chris Goodwin, and I'm scrolling around looking at Vimp69, and they're members. And so they just support the channel by doing membership. And, I want to say thank you to them, Thunder Falcon, all of you. I know I'm missing a few. I saw Adrian. I saw a bunch of others earlier too. So thank you guys for that support as well. All right, so that's what those names mean. That's what those colors mean, so you guys see them. If you guys want to ask me a question, please put a question mark at the beginning of the question, so I know it's directed towards me. And then of course there's super chats and early risers, and we're going to do those right now. And that's when somebody comes early and leaves questions at the beginning. The first question was from Jeffrey, who says, "Hey Phil, what tips would you give to get the best tone out of a Mesa Boogie Rectiverb 50 EQ settings?" I love Mesa Boogie amps. I don't know what it is about them. There is something tricky about them. Excuse me. And but there is something I love about that. What I would suggest to you is to understand that the EQ settings on Mesa Boogies, all of them, more so the Mark series, but even the Recto series, it's very extreme to me. So one thing I will always tell people is I think it's instinctive for most guitar players, like set your controls like standard, straight up or something like that. I back them off, especially the low end on the Mesas. I like to back it off. So that's something I would suggest that you try on all Mesas, is trying to back off the EQ a little bit and see what it does for the amp. Keep in mind that it depends on the type of circuit. And again, I'm not an amp guy by any means, but there are things that I understand with Mesa Boogie, which is a lot of times the EQ actually adds gain. So that's another reason why you want to back it off. Let the gain control do the gain and let the EQ back off a little bit. But one of the things I would suggest you right away is just backing the EQ back, and then also really focus on that low end. So that's a suggestion. Try that. Brian says, "Hey Phil, thoughts on the Guthrie Govan Charvel tremolo?" Let's take a look at that. I'm pretty sure it's a Floyd now, right? Do they call them Floyd Rose Juniors now? Is that what they were calling? Something like that? Let's see what it's called. And not pulling up the guitar, so you know I'm pulling up the actual bridge that's in the guitar, because I want to know the name of it. It's a Floyd Rose non-fine tuner tremolo. I swore it was called a Junior. Let me share it with you. So here we go. So you're looking at one right now. This is it. This is it. And if you guys looking at this, you can tell that it's a Floyd Rose. Obviously it says Floyd Rose, but you can see it doesn't have the fine tuners like you see on this one. If I can click this one right here. There you go. Allow, of course. So this is a different one. You can see it has fine tuners versus the other one I was showing you guys, which is this one. Funny, my thoughts on it. I have never tried one. I have been seriously, and I mean this by no underestimation, I have been seriously, I guess, like enthralled with it. I just want that bridge. So I saw a video a while back with Pete Thorne, and he had that bridge on his Sur guitar. And one of the things that I love is Pete, and I've said this before, Pete and Tim Pierce did a video once where they talked about how tremolos feel, or vibrato systems feel for those that don't like those words, the vibrato systems feel. And I love the way the Floyd feels, but I don't necessarily love the locking system all the time because sometimes I want to detune and change the tuning on my guitar. And so that bridge really appealed to me. And here's what's interesting. I've mentioned once before, that I said I have a Kramer curse. I actually probably have more so as that bridge of a curse. I have, over the years of companies reaching out and saying, hey, we want to do a custom build. I think if I was going to, I'm guessing, but I think I'm pretty sure I'm right. I think I've had 12 companies, so that's a dozen. Since I've been on YouTube, 12 companies, or maybe a little bit more, have reached out to me and say, let's do a custom build. And of those, I think only one company's ever done the build, which is the Halo behind me, this one. Halo. Technically, the GNL, technically, but there's I don't know. I wouldn't really go to count that one because it's not really custom. It was just a custom color. But out of every company I've ever said, yeah, let's do a custom build, it'd be really funny. Whether it was just they were going to gift it to the channel and then I was going to do all the content, or I was going to pay for it. It just seems like they never would. It just never works out. They never make it. So in that, reason why I tell you that is I've had 2 different companies. Specifically, I go, I want that bridge in the guitar because I thought, oh, it'll be the first time I get to demo that bridge, and it'll be cool. And it never happens. So I just have to come across one. Somebody, on a side note, somebody was saying Pete uses the locking Wilkinson bridge. He does on his model, but he has some SIRs with this bridge on there. Like I said, you have to go through his catalog. I talked to him about it when we were at Sweetwater together just recently, and I was telling him how much I like that bridge, and he was saying he likes it because, again, it feels like the Floyd Rose, but it doesn't have the locking system. So that's like I said. So I don't know what to tell you on that. The question was, what do I think of it? What's my thoughts on the Guthrie Govan tremolo of that bridge? It looks cool as hell. I think in theory it's great. I don't have the Guthrie Govan guitar in my crosshairs right now to buy. And so like I said, I thought, oh, I'll just put it on a guitar I'm going to order. And I don't know. I don't have an official policy on this, but I think we're going to make an official, we don't do custom guitar builds on the channel anymore because it seems to always go strange. Strange is a word. I like that word. We'll just say strange. So we have a lot of theories why we think the builds never end up happening, but I think curse is fine. You can have a Kramer curse. You can have a custom guitar curse, and we'll just go with that. So... strange. All right. And there was a question. I just saw a comment. Somebody was asking about talking about the Dean guitar thing. That came up too this week. We'll talk about that. It's a little bit of news thing. So, of course, Dean lost the case with Gibson, and now they can't make the V and the other guitar, and there's all that. But what really came up also, which is a big deal, I'm just going to share it with you. I shared it with my patrons this week, was... the CEO, Evan Robinson, was being sued by his mother, because he was allegedly embezzling $420,000. And then, of course, he stepped down. He's no longer CEO. Well, this says, I don't know if it said he stepped down. It says he's no longer CEO of the company. And, man, I just feel like Dean is plagued with problems. I mean, obviously, not all of them are their fault. And keep in mind, this you gotta, just for the state of this, you have to separate this person who is doing a thing and the company. Okay, so Dean, obviously, the company isn't doing anything wrong with this part. The person is being allegedly. Accused of doing the wrongdoing. And so you can imagine, I feel for this stuff, I always, just like I talk about with the Fender stuff, I feel always for the employees. You know what I mean? Employees, people take jobs and they work their asses off, and remember, if you have a job, remember, if you have a job, you're making somebody else rich. Okay. And there's a give and take in that. And I've always taken this very seriously. I think there's a give and take in this. When somebody works their ass off for you to make you rich or make you possibly rich, they're trading, hopefully, security, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you don't have security. I tell you guys all day, every day. I've been self-employed now for almost, I don't know, 18 years, longer, almost 20 years. And every day I wake up and, I don't know what the state of my life is going to be like in every day. I have so many things going on that I have to, deal with it. However, the exchange of that is I give up certain things, obviously, but I get certain things. And so having a job is hopefully to say, hey, look, I'll work my ass off, but, I want some security. And that no one can guarantee that. But there's a difference between the world coming at you, as a company, and people in your company specifically stealing, making poor decisions, and putting people in a bad way. So I just hate to hear all this stuff. That's a lot of money. It's $500,000. So... and I'm sure it's going to be interesting what happens. But of course, talk about horrible timing. You have a market slowdown. You have Gibson suing them and winning. You have this now. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. So I wish them the best as a company, and I hope that I hope it works out. Well, of course, it's worth talking about because obviously, all the reasons you can think of, just like with Fender and everything going right now, it's because it's what we care about. We care about the guitars, and of course, we care about the people that make guitars. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. I hope it all works out for them, and I hope if he is guilty, he gets punished, and if he's not guilty, I hope him and his mother can recover from this. Somebody said, I can imagine being sued by your mother. I can't even comprehend that. I can't comprehend that on either direction. As a father, I can't comprehend having to sue one of my children. And as, obviously as a child of a parent, I can't imagine being sued or suing a parent. I just can't imagine this stuff, to some degree. So, and I've been hosed by family members. So, I've never had the feeling like I'm going to sue them. So I know it can get bad, but I've never, horrible. Let's talk about guitar stuff again. That was kind of guitar stuff. I just knew it was going to come up, so I had it already readied up. A lot of you guys are going to get. I know we're going to get a lot of can't believe you're stealing from your mom. That seems doesn't it seem just? Isn't that funny? This is what I was saying about people and why people matter. It's really a CEO stealing from a corporation, and yet we're going to really focus on the mom-son dynamic because that's the part. Isn't that the worst part? $500,000. Think about this. Deep down in your heart, okay? And again, allegedly, deep down in your heart, worse than getting $500,000 stolen from you, which none of us can even comprehend having, much less losing. But you could put into scale whatever money that means to you. There's a number that, obviously would feel like that to you. Obviously, if you don't have the kind of, some people would be $500, some people would be $5,000, it could be $50,000. Let's just pick those numbers. Those are easy. One of those numbers has the same effect to you. Deep down, losing that money is never going to feel as bad as your own child doing it to you. Your own family doing it to you. So, and that's what I said about people. That's the damage is the people more so than the money, because money comes and goes, but people can really cut you to the deep. Okay. Yeah, a lot of you guys, I'm going to echo some of your thoughts. Matt says, hey, you're supposed to protect your family. Of course. Interesting enough. The sad thing is his father was such a well-liked person in the industry and was well-respected. And, and there was a lot of, I've talked about this on the show way back when Gibson started suing Dean. There was a lot, and I mean a lot of people in the industry, of course, including myself, that thought his father's passing was the reason that Gibson went after Dean at that time, because, you had this strong person that's well respected, that's really smart in the industry. And again, that's all alleged, right? Allegedly. But there was a belief system that was like, this is strike while you can. In other words, they saw the moment in which to go after them. And I would imagine maybe they knew more than we did, because look where they're at now. So anyways, and then Evan says, are you assuming his guilt? Well, I said allegedly 50 times, Evan. I don't know how many times I could say allegedly. I'm not going to say allegedly. He allegedly. Look, I read the statement. He's allegedly accused of this. No one knows. Okay. Here's what I will tell you though. I'm sure his mother, since they're, obviously it's his mother, I'm sure they were probably going to try to keep this off the radar for as much as they can. So it being on the radar is really bad. Like I said, I hope he's innocent. That's my hopes. And allegedly, for more allegedlys. I hope he's allegedly innocent. I don't know. Allegedly. So there you go. Okay. Yeah, crazy times. All right, we're gonna go to the next question. We're gonna go to the next topic. Let's see. This is a great one, Bernard. I love you, Bernard. I knew this one was I had this in my pocket as a great question for a great subject. It says, "Hey Phil, what concert experience stands out as one with amazing sound and playing where you walked away with new insight on how to approach your instrument or gear?" That's a fantastic question, because he's not asking what's my favorite concert or who's my favorite band. He's talking about an experience that basically was life-changing. I'm going to say life-changing in the idea of what I learned about my instrument and gear. And there's a couple that stick out in my mind. And one of them is, strangely enough, the band Korn. I've seen Korn like 4 times. I can't even say I'm a huge fan. I like Korn a lot, but I'm not like a huge fan. But I've seen them because they either were with other bands that I liked, or I saw them right when they first came out in a club. And what happened was, one of the times, I don't think it was the last time I saw them, was the time before, I got to go on a backstage pass. Okay, so I had a backstage pass. It was given to me by a company. This is pre-YouTube days. And I got to go hang out and look at their gear. And I was very familiar with it. But like I said, they were using Mesa Boogies through Marshall cabinets, I believe. And one of the things that happened was, going through the gear and talking to the tech and stuff, what happened was everything was the opposite of what I just instinctively thought. You just think of lots of gain. It's Korn, lots of distortion, pickup screaming, just this whole thing. And what you realize, it was because they down-tune, they actually back off the gain. They don't run a ton of gain. And I thought that was really interesting. That was an interesting kind of perspective. And it's taught me something, because when I drop, D now, the first thing I'll do sometimes with an amp is I'll back the gain off just a little bit, and I find it just tightens back up. It's not so flubby. Like I said, you don't want the low end. I never thought about it, because as a bass player, you think about it instinctively. Like, you don't want to run your bass through a ton of distortion. It's just going to sound like mud. So same thing with lower tunings. As soon as you tune down, you want to kind of back the gain off a little bit. So that was one. I can tell you, one of the best bands I've ever heard for sound, of course, is King's X. Without a doubt, just amazing tonal sound. And what I learned from that was it wasn't their gear, it was how tight they are. That was one of those things where I realized, man, there's just no amount of gear that's going to make you sound as tight as practice is. And I don't even mean being talented musicians. I've seen musicians that I feel are as talented technically or more technically talented than those guys, right? When you think of virtuoso style playing. So I'm not saying that. They are, of course, amazing players. Of course, I'm a huge Ty Tabor fan. Doug Pinnick, of course, amazing. So love them as players. But that's not what makes them sound great, in my opinion, when you're watching them live. It's how freaking tight they are. They're tight in not only how they play, but their tones. Their tones are layered correctly. It's a perfect example to me of when musicians just take the ego, take it right off their head, right? Take the ego out and go, okay, this tone makes his tone sound better, makes this tone sound better. I mean, Doug's bass and Ty's guitar tones just work like this, and they're so perfectly set up. And I've obviously interviewed Doug. I've never interviewed Ty, but I would imagine that there is a compromise there. There's a little bit of like, man, I wish my tone, I'm sure they want to tweak a little bit or make it a little louder and do this stuff. And that's what it is. That's what they do that I thought was amazing, was they focus on the sound of the band, and that's it. Being tight, sounding great, and layering perfectly. And that was one. That was a game changer for me. Another game changer was, as you know, one of my favorite guitar players of all time is Monty Montgomery. Check him out if you haven't heard of him. I always tell everybody, I think he would have been way bigger. It's just everything. I think when you hear his name, you think country. He's not a country artist. He's just probably my favorite guitar player, seriously, of all time. And seeing him live, what I love about Monty Montgomery, seeing him live, is talk about a guy who can change up the rig and still sound amazing. You know what I mean? Boutique amp. You know, I seen him once, and he had a SWR acoustic amp that was really nice. Of course, his Yeri, which is expensive acoustic, and you know, he's running. I think he was running a kind of boutique overdrive or something. Some other stuff. It's nice gear. Nothing, you know, blow you away. And then I saw him again. I swear he was running through a Crate acoustic amp and a Blues driver by Boss. I don't know if he was borrowing that rig or if that's what they had or if that's his other rig or maybe it's vice versa. But he sounded just as good. He's actually where where the theory I like to tell everybody is gear is for the musician, not the audience. His job is to make it to where we hear the best ever, and so the gear is about for him. It's what he likes to play through, what inspires him. So obviously in his world, he either made it work one night or he likes, you know, what he likes or whatever it was. Man, it was really eye-opening. And that's the whole, like I said, the know your gear philosophy again is not that you know everything. It's that you learn how to use the stuff you have to the point where you can use the $30 pedal and the $100 guitar and the $200 amp, and you learn to make it sound amazing, because it's never going to be the shortcomings of the gear, in my opinion. Never is a little extreme. I don't like never, but you know what I mean. We know it's us. So it's about learning how to use our stuff as much as possible. And I think that's important. I think it's, like I said, I think learning how to use sound, especially in the electric guitar, learning how to use the equipment, I think is as valuable as learning how to play the music. I think they go hand in hand. And when people try to focus and say it doesn't matter, it's all in your hands, I'm not here to argue that. I'm just trying to say, well, okay, well, why can't we just have both? Why can't we say it all matters to some degree? Why can't, you know what I mean? I can definitely entertain and agree with an argument that says knowing how to play the guitar well is more important than having a nice guitar. I absolutely agree with you. But I think there's value to all the things working together. And that's what I learned from Monty, watching him. And then, and I probably have more of these, but I'm just thinking obviously off the top of my head. But another band that sticks out to me, of course, is Living Colour. And here's why. Talk about a band with a gazillion things going on, right? 5,000 pedals. Just chaos, right? Just chaos. I even did a Vernon Reid rig rundown reaction video. It's the only reaction video I ever did. I had to do it because it's so just crazy and mind-boggling. And everything in my being tells me when I saw it, when I see that stuff, is there's just no way all that stuff is going to work together. And a lot of people say you don't need all that stuff, and a lot of people say all kinds of things. And again, everybody can have their opinions for sure. However, for me, what I learned about that was it's how they found themselves. Because let me tell you, they sounded great, they played great, it was a great show. It's definitely in my top 10 or 20 shows. And when I say top 10 or 20 shows, I've gone to so many shows. So I mean, hundreds and hundreds of shows. So to be in the top 10 or 20 of my list it's a long list. So to get in there, I'm telling you, I have a lot of appreciation for it. But I loved it because I love the idea that they take it to extremes, and everybody, in some cases it might have been me, and everybody has had a band, I'm sure, at some point where there was a guy or gal in your band who maybe should have brought less crap to the gig, right? Yeah, right. We've all been guilty of it to some extreme, but we're not talking about being guilty of it once or twice. We're talking about the person who's like, okay, calm down. Right? You don't need, you're like, we're playing Bob's Pub and Grub on Thursday. And he's like, okay, great. I'm bringing 3 Marshalls. I'm bringing my Fender from my clean tone. I got 2 pedal boards. I got to sync them. I'm going to dual wireless systems. I got to, right? They're just going to, you're like, okay, look, calm down. Right? And what I've learned when they go crazy like that is it ends up sounding horrible because there's just too much stuff. Too much goes wrong, too much stuff. And I got to tell you, to the credit, Living Colour, most stuff I've ever seen, packed into anything. And yet, no, not one time. I've seen them twice. Never seen them crap out. I've never seen Vernon, right, or Doug, spending 20 minutes trying to fix, an issue. I mean, you guys may have seen them once do that, but I haven't. And like I said, it's crazy. And then the last note on that too is, they were a band that, they're just so different for what vein they're in. And that's why I like them. Some people love them. Some people don't like them. I always tell everybody, well, whether you like something or don't like something, you should experience it. You will learn something from it. As you guys know, I talk about Larry. Sometimes Larry Mitchell's my friend. He's a great guitar player. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, which he didn't give to me, he gave to a group at a clinic that I was just hanging out at. I was loitering with him, and he was talking to the crowd, and boy, I don't know why, but my ears poked up and heard it. He said, "You'll never advance your playing if you don't learn anything outside your little bubble." I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's the sense of it, right? He's like, you'll never be the best rock guy if you don't learn another genre of something, right? You'll never expand what you're doing if you don't go outside of it. And I thought, oh, that's a great way to think of things. And so I like that attitude. So, all right. That's a great question. And it put us in a different philosophy, different area. Let's do this one. Jose Soto says, he says, "Hey, Phil, today's my birthday. Happy birthday, Jose." He says, "My wife said I need a new guitar." Well, I like your wife already. She sounds like an amazing person. She says, "Today," he goes, "Today, I love my wife." Well, you should love her every day if that's how she acts and she wants you to. He goes, "Sam Ash, here we come." So he's probably not hearing this now. He's on his way to Sam Ash to get a good guitar. Happy birthday and happy new guitar day and happy cool wife who likes you to get guitars. That's all just great stuff to hear. The next question is from Deja Voodoo, who says, "Hey, Phil, you tend to be right on the money predicting industry trends. Sometimes you can get lucky a couple times and maybe..." It says transitions. Oh, the transitions and the drama and stuff. Okay, it goes, "When was the last time you were genuinely, not generally, genuinely surprised or shocked at a gear trend or company decision?" I'm gonna. Hopefully, I can come up with two because I like to give you two examples of stuff. The one I got wrong the most, and I will remember this, was Kiesel guitars. When Kiesel and Carvin had a break away from each other in 2015, I believe. I think Kiesel says, I think they're 73 years old. They've been around since like 1946, something like that, the original company. But Jeff Kiesel and his dad, the company we know Kiesel now, they've technically been around since 2015, I think. You guys can Google the exact date, but I think that sounds right. And when they did that, when that rebranding happened, a lot of us, including myself, didn't understand all the stuff going on between the two factions of the Kiesel family. That's basically the best way I have to put it, right? You have Jeff and his dad, and then of course his dad's brother and his cousins, right? So there's Carvin now audio, that's separate, Carvin audio, and then you have Kiesel. They're not connected anymore, and that's what I mean by 2015. When they rebranded Carvin to Kiesel, I remember thinking this was the worst idea I ever heard, right? Like, who does that? Even explaining like it's our name, we were always the Kiesels, we were never Carvin, right? And they explained all this stuff, but rebranding was just such a crazy thing to do, right? It just seems so crazy. And I have to say, I mean, obviously they've stepped in their own crap a couple times, as we know, and they've had some highs and lows. But as a person, I have no problem admitting that I was so totally wrong. Their rebranding did so many good things. First of all, one of the things we love about Carvin guitars and basses was they were always quality, but they were always had horrible resale value. Right? Which is great when you bought one used. It's a bragging point. Like, I got this American-made amazing guitar for, $200. I offended a customer once in my store so badly that they were there for their very first lesson. I pissed them off so bad that they never came back and got their other 3 lessons. I felt horrible. I reached out to them and tried to apologize. And this is what happened, and I think it's an honest mistake that I made. One of my good friends, now you guys know Joe. He's been on the channel a long time ago, but Joe, this is how I made friends with him. So it's weird. I pissed off a customer and made a good friend, and it was all because of how this happened. What happened was a guy came into our store and he traded in a Carvin guitar. This predates Kiesel, and it was really one of the expensive Carvins. Okay. So I did what we all do. I pull up like, eBay, and I'm looking at what, stuff are going for. And this guitar is like, at that time was very expensive. It was about $1,500 to $1,800 new. And I couldn't find it for anything more than like $400 or $500 used. Tops. And so, I told him, I go, I can only give you about $250, $300. And I was really trying to get into it really low. So, I mean, because all I kept thinking was, I'm not going to get this price. No one's going to buy this guitar. Doesn't matter. It was neck through. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful quilted top. Doesn't matter. So, I lowballed the guy. The guy took it, and I got into it for like $250. So hung it on the wall, put it for $5. Okay. And I was thinking, I'm not going to get $5. So I'm not trying to double my money. I'm trying to like, okay, the first person is coming in for $350 on this. They're getting this guitar. And, and the guy traded to me. He didn't even budge, he didn't care. Cause again, he's like, he knew, same thing. They don't have any resale value. So it's on the wall, rots for months. Okay. I mean, especially think about this. You got to think about inflation and stuff, but you got to think like, it's like walking in a store now and seeing a nice neck through body American guitar. I understand, or Carvin now, and seeing it for the equivalent of like $700, right? It's a top line guitar. And so what happens is, I don't have any problems with that, but a customer comes in, they sign up for lessons. They came in, they're there for their first lesson. They're waiting for their teacher. They have a case. We're talking, because I'm just there. I'm talking. I was working on guitars and talking. And the guy goes, you want to see like the nicest guitar ever? And I said, oh yeah. And he goes, man, he goes, wait do you see this? And he opens up the case, and it's the same guitars on my wall, but in red. Mine was blue and his was red. And he goes, this is the nicest guitar like ever. Right? And so there's a story to this. So he goes, I'm looking at it and I go, oh, it's really nice. Cause it is. And, he says it's worth like $2,000. And I said, no, I mean, I go, if you want, I have the exact one over there. I'll sell it to you for $350 right now. And, cause I'm thinking, cause I'm an idiot. I'm thinking, well, I can fast sell the second one and, he'll have a second one. Cause obviously he loves this thing. Who wouldn't want to pick up a second one for nothing? What I didn't know is he didn't buy it. So he was a general contractor, some kind of contractor, and what he did was he traded thousands of dollars of his labor for it to somebody. They handed it. And so I mean, he really worked his ass off for this guitar, and he really loved it. And I basically told him it had no value. And yeah, Matt's like, oof. I know. As soon, and I can tell you right now, as soon as it all came out of my mouth, it was like, you know how you just, I don't know. Hopefully you guys don't know this experience when you say stupid crap and it comes out of your mouth, and you're like, what's wrong with me? Right? So basically that's what happened. And obviously I upset him, and it was, and it's not because I was like the bearer of the bad news. That'd be worse. I shouldn't have said anything like that. I was basically just like, it's nothing. The only good news come from that, it was a couple days later, Joe, my buddy, good friend now, came into my store. This was the first time he came to the store. He saw the guitar and he goes, that's a really nice Carvin. And he's like, what will you do? And I go, I'll do $350. And so he bought it, and that's how we became friends. So the reason I tell you that story, obviously, just to tell you another stupid moment in my life. More importantly, though, tell you about this Kiesel, how I got Kiesel wrong. Kiesel's resale value is way stronger than what Carvin was, and Kiesel has done a lot to improve a lot of things. And there's some choices that you guys aren't happy about. They got rid of some stuff, right? Like one of the things they got rid of that I think was a cool decision was, remember, Carvin had a line of acoustic guitars that were made overseas, and they got rid of that. And I appreciate their whole desire to do only USA made stuff. So Kiesel, of course, is doing great right now as a company. They've been growing. And so my prediction was they were going to fail, and that was the worst idea ever. I said it a lot nicer than that back in the day, but I basically said that this is not a good idea. And now you look back now, and years later, not only was it a good deal, but look, I have one right there, and I have two Kiesels behind me right now, and I absolutely love. And I can actually tell you they're two of my favorite guitars. So, I mean, they're in my heavy rotation of playing, and I like them. So, I mean, they've done a lot. And I've always liked Carvin, but I think for some reason, the branding has worked on me where the Kiesel just feels a little bit more premium, even though I know it's the same guitar. They make them the same way. And like I said, it took away one of the things I didn't like about Carvin. One of my only takeaways was I didn't like that they, like I said, I never felt the desire to buy a new Carvin because I didn't want to take a bath if I didn't like it. So, that's one. That's one thing. I was totally wrong. He said trends also. What are the trends? You know, I think I don't know if I could say I actually got it wrong, but I can tell you what I was late on to get to, and IRs, impulse responses. I did not get on the impulse response wagon very quickly. I am on it now, and I can tell you right now, it's at first impulse responses, I was like, oh, this is all just EQing. You know, I can just EQ, and it is, but you know what? Impulse responses to me are some of the biggest game change. I was going to say, if there's like a piece of technology I think about, like when you think about preamps and you think about recording technology and digital recording and obviously computers and all the things that probably innovated things in the industry, I think of impulse responses as being one of the biggest, massively biggest changes in the recording world, in the playing world, just period. It's just it's a huge game changer, and it will be the thing that continually changes the guitar gear environment for many decades coming forward. Such a great idea. So, Eddie says, I still need to get on the IR bandwagon. Thought the same thing. It's just a fancy EQ. Yeah, I was like, I was so pessimistic. And again, I wasn't saying it was a scam or anything stupid. I wasn't down on it. I just wasn't going like, I can figure that out. And, and that's one thing that's great about having a channel like this and an opportunity like I have, which is, companies reach out. And what happened was, as you guys watch the videos over the years, companies reach out and want to send me stuff like an impulse response pedal or a program or a thing. And luckily, some companies are really cool and they'll say, and I go, I don't know. I don't want to do a video about this. And they're like, well, can we send it to you and have you check it out? And just, if you don't like it, you don't have to do anything. And we'll still be friends. You know what I mean? Like, oh, cool. And then you get it and you mess with it. And, you got no skin in the game. I got no money out for this stuff. So, I'm like, okay, might as well try it. Why can I say, how can I say no? And then as you try it, you're like, wow. And every time after that, wow. Like I said, I would say the Cab M by Two Notes is one of my favorite things on the market. The Aux by Universal Audio, one of my favorite things. The Captor X, I mean, that stuff is, like I said, it's literally game changing to me and how it's changed everything I do and making things easy. So yeah, Brad Guitar says IR save hearing. I have so many positive things to say about impulse responses, and they're easy. I'm not even a tech guy, so trust me, I'm not doing anything fancy with my impulse responses. I just kind of listen to my friends that are smart and know how to use them and they program them and they make them, and I'm like, and I just take their stuff and use their stuff, and it works great. So, all right. Ray M says, would be nice if Kiesel made a guitar sub $1,000 affordable instruments like Carvin did. I agree. I wish if I could change one thing or, about them, I would agree. I wouldn't ever say anything like, I don't think they should do a custom guitar or anything for that, low pricing, but it would be nice if Carvin had a production guitar that they made all the time. And maybe offer it in 5 colors, maybe like a Delos, right? Just do it. It could be I think it would be fantastic because here's why. I think it would be, I think at first to them, it might be scary because to them, it's like, well, it's resources. We have employees making these guitars. We don't make a huge margin on them. But I think, I would have never bought a Kiesel. Never. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I would have never bought one except for you guys. You guys, what happens on these live shows is you guys send messages. There's all kinds of things that get on my radar just because, somebody super chats it or somebody messages it or 50 times I've seen it. It just keeps coming up. And Kiesel just kept coming up. What do you think of Kiesel? And you can only ask me about 50 times what I think of something and I have no idea what it is before I get annoyed and going, okay, I gotta learn something because I can't keep going like, I don't know, I've never tried one, right? And there's a ton of brands, Ertz like that. There's a ton of brands that you guys suggest. Sometimes it's the inexpensive stuff. Sometimes it's expensive stuff. And you're suggesting because you're curious what I think of it or, so we could talk about it. And so I bought that used Vader and a viewer, Tim, he's the guy who hooked me up. He's like, he introduced me to somebody who's reselling Kiesels and they had this one and they made me a deal and I got it for $1,000. And so this is why I say it's perfect that you said $1,000 because that's what it was for me. I was not going to spend $1,001 for a Kiesel. I was not going to do it. I was looking for a Kiesel, $1,000. And all I was really looking for was to tick some boxes, which is, okay, I got a Kiesel. I didn't spend an insane amount of money on it. And now I can do a video of it and share it with you guys. And when you guys, what do you think of Kiesels? I go, well, the one I played, this is what I liked and didn't like. And I got that guitar and I absolutely loved it. I was like, absolutely love it. I'm like, I could get it now. You guys, I'm like, yeah, it's great. Plays great. It feels great. $1,000. I was like, yeah, you can't go wrong, for that price point. But again, that was used and not new. And I think used, you can find guitars. There's a one I saw the other day used. It was in the racing green. I think it's $1,200 on Reverb right now. And I was looking at that one going, do I need another Kiesel? But for me, I agree with what you're saying, is if they had just a production guitar, just something that you could buy and know, and because it's a production guitar, a whole value, because there'll be used ones on there, and maybe you can pick up a used one for $800, buy a new one for $1,000. I think Kiesel would be better for it, because they would be able to their biggest obstacle that they have is you have to buy something that most of us, including myself, I've never tried. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. I wasn't familiar with their neck shapes, familiar with their tones, the feel, and they like to throw the quality thing, like, oh, it's stainless steel frets and it's the right woods and it's built really well and it's got cool colors and it's semi-custom, and that's great. And for the price, it's a very good value, because like I said, if you look at what Sir and other brands that go for that have the same kind of features, you're getting a good deal. However, there's no way to really get an experience of them unless you're happen to buy a used one. So I agree. I think if they did a production guitar, it would be great marketing for them, and they would sell a lot of them, and a lot of you guys would try them, especially since all of you who are watching right now that are Kiesel friends, Kiesel fans, I should say, that once you get one, you kind of like buy another one. Once you try one, you're like, and it's not for all the best reasons. Sometimes it's because you're like, this is really good. I can't wait to get another one. It's also like, once you did it, you're like, I wish I did, this. And so now maybe I'll do another one and I'll refine it. The Crackle one that I have, the Purple Crackle, that it was my, I made 2 Kiesels, and what I learned from doing that, this was exactly what I was trying to do in the first place. And I did it. So, there you go. And once I kind of felt better knowing their finish is really good, I was more crazy. Like, let's try one of the crazy finishes. So there you go. We have the other question came from Alan Sam's Music. He says, new guitar day, trying out the Revstar II standard. So far, I'm really enjoying it, and I liked your video on the guitar. Thank you. I appreciate that, Alan. I put the thing on there now. I pinned the comment, but I love that video because that was one of those videos, like I said, when I got the guitar, Revstar, Yamaha sent that out. And, and it was a strange, different guitar. It was very strange. And I want, Lawrence Patros helped me with that guitar because I was having trouble. I was like, okay, I think I know what this guitar is doing. I reached out to Yamaha. They didn't give me an answer, right? They said that they could talk to the designer, but they didn't, they didn't have the answer. There was only so long you can sit on a video before it's like, okay, well, every day I'm sitting on this video, it's becoming irrelevant because it's not, everybody else put out 50 of them too, because they sent out a lot of those guitars. That was one of those heavy guitars that they sent out so many channels. And I really wanted my video out because I feel like I had a voice in it, in a way of looking at the guitar that no one was looking at. And I had decided that basically after checking my ideas through Lawrence and checking my ideas through another friend and kind of like, okay, I got the right idea. This is what it is. And I put it out. And I put it out and it was well received. It did great views. And a lot of people were like, whoa, that's crazy. And then of course I got some people were like, you're wrong. You're so wrong. And every person who said I was wrong, you got to understand, I'm only 90% sure, right? Well, what I'm saying is accurate because again, I can only tell you what I think I see, what I hear, what I've kind of reverse engineered. And thank God, a couple days after the video released, Yamaha sent me a confirmation of, yes, we talked to the designer and that is what it's doing. And I'm like, nice. Good. good. I was like so happy. I'm like, great. You know, because I was ready to have put an update going, hey guys, maybe I got it wrong and this is what it is. So the reason I say that now is like, I still get a couple comments here and there on that video. Not very many, but you go in and you're like, hey Phil, just so you know, you're totally wrong. It's really doing this. And I'm like, so now I have the comment pen going, okay, well, the guy who designed it said this is what it's doing. So we're going to say the guy designed it's right. That's just what I'm going to say. So Alan, I'm glad you liked that video. That was one of the harder videos I did. And of course, it was one of the more risks I took. You know, sometimes, like I said, I've done a lot of videos over the years where I'm like I said, I can only be 90% sure at some point because of what I can confirm and not confirm. And I'm like, okay, we'll go with it. And hopefully we're not, you know, giving out wrong information because, you know, don't want that. I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, because boy, if you're a little wrong, man, they rake you over the coals, and maybe they should. Yeah, Bali Tiger says, have you seen the resale values on the Beast Rich Warlock made in Indonesia? He says India. Is it India, Indonesia? I thought it was Indonesia, but it doesn't matter. India, Indonesia. They obviously use both those countries for manufacturing for the BC Rich. Says retail is $900 and looks like resale is over $2,000. Yeah, I've seen them go for over $2,000 too. And that makes sense because here's why it makes sense. It makes sense because if you look at this guitar line, this launch, the BC Rich Warlocks that they did for the Stranger Things release. This is the same marketing strategy that Fender did with Game of Thrones. I said that before on the podcast weeks and weeks ago when I said it's the same logic. And remember, those Game of Thrones guitars were like $25,000. I don't even remember. Somebody's going to probably remember in the comments. You know, it's not something I commit to memory because I was like, when I see it, I just like see insane pricing and I go, okay, I'm not looking at those. But it was like $25,000 and they sold out those guitars in, you know, no time. And the reason they sold out, you know, Game of Thrones guitars for $25,000, the same reason these BC Rich, you know, guitars, these Stranger Things guitars sold out, of course, in minutes and high dollar. And I saw some YouTube channels kind of poking at them like, this is dumb, they are dumb. And I'm like, okay, look, that's an interesting perspective, but here was my perspective, which is this. A lot of guitar players did not buy them. A lot of Stranger Things fans bought them. And you have to understand, when you make a product outside of its normal market and you introduce new consumers to the market, they have different mentalities, different ideas. You know, to me, a person buying a $2,000 made in Indonesia or India or you know, China or wherever you want, you know, import guitar, right? So what we're trying to say is it's not a high dollar expensive guitar because it's imported. When you see somebody going, okay, I'm going to spend $2,000 for that guitar, I see the same customer as I spend $2,000 for a replica Lifesaver, Lana Lifesaver, not the candy, the Lifesaver, or a, you know, $5,000 for a replica, you know, Boba Fett helmet or whatever, you know, people collect up. Okay. And so it's a different customer. Sure, some guitar players probably bought them. I would imagine most guitar players who bought them for the actual guitar purpose immediately sold them for profit because they were like, well, I like it, but I like the doubling and tripling my money more, and they probably went and bought something else because that value line is different for them. Because to us, we'll always see it as, you know, kind of like, imagine if Squire did a line of guitars for a movie, you know, and they started going for $2,000. You're not going to see a whole lot of guitar players going, oh, I really wanted it because it was in the movie. You're going to see a lot of movie fans going, I'll buy it. And the guitar players aren't going to do it. So that's what I think happened with that stuff. So that's, if you look at it from that perspective, I'm not saying that's right, but I think that kind of changes, right? Doesn't it tilt the way you're looking at the situation? You know, I think, right? I think, and I know to some degree that's true because if you guys remember on this channel, I was given an amazing gift. It's actually framed. It's in my hallway now. It's outside this room. It's in the hallway, which I was given a piece of movie memorabilia from Army of Darkness, because I'm a huge Bruce Campbell fan and Army of Darkness fan. And it was such a great gift, but it's an expensive gift because I don't know if you guys realize, like, that stuff is worth good money. To me, I didn't even know that, by the way. At the time I got it, it was just like, oh, he gave me a gift from a movie and he worked on the movie. And that was John. And it was like, oh, this is such a cool gift. And just on an emotional level, And then one of my friends who's into that stuff saw it framed and he goes, "Oh, what's that?" And I tell him, and he goes, "Oh, that stuff's worth big dollars." And I go, "Really?" Like I didn't think it had any value. Like not, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Other than the emotional value. I didn't know it was a dollar value. So yeah. So in fact, you know what? Landon just beat me. Landon Bailey just beat me to it. PB tried with the Star Wars. Oops. Landon, Google those Star Wars guitars. Google them. Somebody pull up those Star Wars PV guitars and tell me what they're going for now. Keep in mind, those guitars there was 2 levels of those guitars. I think some were like the little small ones. I think those were like $299 and the other ones were $499. So keep in mind, those price points retails were sub $700. So you know what? I can do it too while we're all doing. We'll talk. Let's see. What does a Star Wars guitar go for now? Probably can't even find them on Reverb Star Wars. Oh yeah, let's share, shall we? Here we go. There you go. These guitars, for a fact, were sub $700 new. Look at that, $3,600. Again, these aren't sold, so we could go and look at sold. $1,400, $950. That's actually pretty reasonable. Look at that, because I'm sure somebody wants $10,000 for all 4 of them, right? And we can look. Let's look to see. Sold. And this one went for 15, right? It looks like this one went for 11. I don't think that one sold, but Reverb's a little tricky because it says sold, but you don't know. And these aren't the real ones. Like this isn't the real thing. PV Rockmaster Star Wars graphics. See, I don't think that's 3/4 scale. I don't think that's exactly right. But there's one for 200. But they go for good value. These are something else. See, like even that original one, 150. So they do go for good money when they are that way. And there'll be trends of that. Like I said, they'll go up and they'll come back down because, again, it has to do with how popular the movies are and all that stuff. So I remember because there was other ones too. Remember they did all those Marvel ones too, and same thing. They were like worth nothing, and then they went up, and then they come back down. But again, I think it's a different customer base, and so I think if it's I think that's why it moves and it's differently and they're priced differently. Because again, I don't think it has to do with us guitar players. I think it has to do with memorabilia fans. I've said this before. I said that the reason why I know the trick. There's a trick if you how to remove Sharpie off a guitar is you use a dry erase marker and you trace it and you wipe it off and it comes right off. So if any of you have any Sharpie on a guitar, all you do is, like I said, take your dry erase marker, trace it over it, and then just wipe off with a dry cloth, and it'll come right off. And if it didn't all come off, do it again. And the reason I know to do that is because people would trade in guitars to us, and they would be signed by famous people, semi-famous people, and unless you're in a memorabilia store, that stuff had no value to us. You know, they're like, hey, this bass was signed by the, I don't want to embarrass any guitar players or bass players, but you know what I mean, signed by somebody, and it would have no value to us because no one was walking in a guitar store looking for a signed instrument by an artist. That's where they go to other stores for that. So, Lisa says, I can see how a pretty guitar would look great on a fan's wall. Absolutely. I think it would be perfect that way. Okay, let's go to some questions. We have Antique Rocker says, I love the Virtual Jeff video. How is it with other pedals, especially fuzz? Okay, I'll go. There's more to the questions, so let me break it down. It says, will it work on a bass, acoustic, electric, or a 12-string? Compare it to a Floyd Rose, Kaler, Bigsby. So it doesn't feel exactly like those bridges. One of the things it does is it has a center detent, and it's kind of like that changes the feel. I would say it reminded me the most of like a Floyd Rose, but it doesn't have the heft or weight to it, obviously. It's very nice. Very nice feeling tremolo vibrato system, right? To answer your question, can you put it on acoustic? You can put it on anything because it's just whatever plugs into it. However, on an acoustic guitar, you got to have the amplified sound so loud that you can't hear the acoustic, because obviously when you're bending up and down, that's coming through the amplifier, not really happening to the strings. So of course it's going to sound really weird to you. No different than using like an octave pedal or any kind of other pedals with an acoustic guitar. If you can hear the original tone, it's going to get a little weird. So you can do it. Bass will actually work with the bass really well too. I almost thought about demoing the bass. That the last video when I did the final edit, I almost did it, and the reason I didn't do it was it doesn't fit on my Warwick, and my Warwick's on the wall right here, and I was like, okay, I have to pull right now. I have some instruments in cases and they're stacked, and I just could not get to the jazz bass, and that's the one it would probably work on. And I kept thinking about doing it, and I go, I don't know how many people are going to be interested in that. And now, of course, now you say that you were interested. But yeah, it works on a bass the same way. It works on anything. It's like I said, think of it like a whammy pedal, except for the expression pedal is just on the guitar itself. That being said, the other part of your question was, how does it sound with a fuzz? It sounds fine. In fact, I chose to do the video all clean. If you notice, the entire time I played clean, and the reason is because that's actually where you detect the most problems with it. So whatever you heard in that video clean, whatever you liked or didn't like, will get substantially, the distortion and everything will hide that stuff. So its most truest sound of what it's doing is through the clean. That's why I went that way. So, which is normally not the way I do things, right? I usually use a good amount of gain, but the gain would hide anything and you wouldn't hear anything. I really wanted to focus on what you could hear with it. So, because that's, kind of like when you have a video and you're doing a video, you're kind of like in your head going, okay, what's the point of this video? And this video was really a point to show you something that's out there that's different and strange. Because obviously, again, it was another product that, you guys had mentioned. That was edited out of the video, the original opening of the video. I went on this long tangent explaining why I even reviewed it. And it was because, obviously, Daryl Braun had reviewed it, and that video did viral. It was huge numbers. And so a lot of you guys had mentioned it to me. And so when the owner of the company sent me an email, sometimes you just don't, the emails just get all packed. I saw Virtual Jeff, and I go, that's the thing they were all talking about. See what I'm saying? And that puts it on my radar to know to pull the email. Otherwise, I would have never grabbed the email. I wouldn't have. Well, I don't want to say never. Wouldn't have been as likely. So, because usually my thought process is, Lisa goes, "Why is it called a Virtual Jeff?" I asked him a ton of questions, and to be honest, I was going to ask him that, and I didn't ask, and the reason it was because I kind of felt he was so nice, but I could see, what I was doing to him, because I was sending him emails and I'm like, hey, can you hook an expression pedal to this? And he's like, no. And I go, hey, can I change it to where up is down and down is up? And he's like, no. And I'm just sending questions, and I'm sure he was, every time he's like, any more questions? No problem. He's super, super polite and kind. He's in Australia, so we have a time, zone difference. So it's like, it takes almost a full day to get an answer back, in the way we were communicating. And, so I was like, all right, I can't keep bugging him. But like I said, my main reason in checking it out was because, like I said, you guys had mentioned it, and I figured, well, somebody will probably be interested in it because you guys are all seeing it. Tim says, does the Virtual Jeff use a whammy bar or arm, or do you have to use a foot? No, you use the whammy bar arm. Like I said, the arm is the controller. And it feels really good. And it's metal, and it feels really quality. Like I said, it's a really cool device. I did say this in the video, and I stack with this, is this. There's not a lot of you going to be interested in that thing. And the ones that are going to be like, that's cool, because I was hoping something like that existed. That's basically how I feel about it. The same way. It's like, I can see a ton of reasons why you'd want it, but also I can see a ton of reasons why you wouldn't need it. Because there's other things. Okay. So where are we at? We're at the halfway mark. Let's do it. We're a little past that. So let me tell you what's going on with this. I have this pedal here. I'm going to read you this letter. This is I could actually say it's my favorite pedal, right? I mean, I'm serious. It's one of my favorite pedals, and I hate saying one of, because that doesn't sound like this, not sincere. I'll say it. It's one of my favorite pedals. I can tell you this, talk about an endorsement, and I'm not endorsed by them, but I am endorsing them. In other words, I'm giving it my endorsement. They're not giving me an endorsement. If I only had one pedal, this would be the pedal I'd own. If I could only have one pedal, this would be the pedal I own. And I did the video, and you guys can see it. And it's because it does what I love, which is it makes me want to play my single coil guitars all the time. All the time. And in fact, I usually play them, but even more so. So here's why this is here. A viewer, his name is Jim Mincer, and Jim sent me this letter, and this pedal, it just shows up, okay? And this is what the letter says. He says, hey, due to a clerical error, I received a second Taurus servo pedal a month after receiving my first. I emailed the company to tell them and offered to return it or forward it if they send me a shipping label. Sorry. It has been weeks and no word. Therefore, I'm willing to turn their mistake into a positive marketing opportunity for them and you. And I'm sending the second pedal to you so you can give it away to one of your Friday podcasts. Okay, on one of your Friday podcasts. My appreciation for everything you do, I've learned from watching your videos. So, Jim, thank you so much. So, basically, he paid out of pocket. He shipped this with his own money to me. So, I mean, he could have had a free pedal. Instead, not only did he give up his free pedal, he paid to ship it to me. I'm going to pay to ship it to one of you guys. So, what I love also, too, so, this pedal is made in Poland. So, it's made in the EU. Yeah, made in Poland right there. So, that's cool, right? Because they actually build these things. And so we're going to give it away. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you about. And this is why I'm going to use this as an opportunity. 2 opportunities here. Somebody's going to get this pedal before we go. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about something. You're seeing a lot of YouTube videos right now from YouTube channels. I saw Trogley and I saw Mary Spender. Excuse me, talking about the fact that there's all these scams on YouTube. And I was talking about this, and I want you to know, because now I've been battling these, I'm not going to say a bad word. I've been battling these idiots for a while now. And so here's not the channels, these scam artists. And here's what's going on. So as you guys know, you guys sometimes in the comments, you're getting like a text me or talk to me or whatever, right? Somebody's like, oh, you won. It's always you won. And that's why I'm apprehensive, because you got to understand, using the words giveaway, I'm nervous, right? I can't put it in the descriptions. I can't put anything. Using giveaways, that's why I've been not doing as many lately. Using those words causes these people to hone in on your channel and start hammering your viewers. Now, how I stopped it, because very few of you are getting these messages from here, but this is why I want to talk about it, because something's happening now, and I need you to be aware of this, because there's always a criminal with a new damn idea that's even more diabolical than the last. So what was happening on this channel was, somebody was contacting you in the comments, and it was saying my name, and it was saying like, I'm Phil McKnight, and it's like, hey, you won, just come and give me money, right? It's always give me money. First of all, never give anybody money if you won something, just first, okay? But here was what I did to combat it. So you can filter words in your channel. In other words, if you put a word in your contact and in your comment, immediately YouTube pulls that comment. No one ever sees it. Okay. I'm the only one that can see it in a held for review category. Okay. And the words I have are every kind of word you can think of. If you put one, like WON, if you put, congratulations, if you put, DM me, if you put DM, if you put PM me, if you put contact, if you put contact me, if you put any of these words, I think of this, me is one of the words. If you put any of these words in any of my videos, it immediately removes the thing. Now, they get smarter and they start now putting it in the name. So where their name, it says you won or something like that. But it doesn't matter. My filters are grabbing 99% of these ass munches comments, okay? Because I have so many words filtered now. Now, what that has done for the last few months is I get up every morning and every night before I go to bed, I go through and I have to release now all of your comments that say, hey, Phil, and you just say one of those words. Because if you just put one of those words in anything, it's going to stop it from being posted publicly, and I have to review it and approve it. So I've been approving them every day. I approved some when I was in Moab. I had approved some when I was in traffic. I was just sitting in traffic, and I was like, okay, let's start, because I have to constantly approve, otherwise you guys' comments won't get out. So I've been approving these comments. Are your comments, okay? So, like I said, and because of the fact that there's certain words that just like I said, like obviously me, me is a word. So if you put the word me in your comment, it has to be, because I have to approve it. This is why I'm bringing this up. But now there's a different game going on, and here's the new game. They're going on other channels that aren't filtering like I am. So I had solved the problem for me, okay? I have like one, and I'm not, maybe two of you have contacted me in the last month going, hey, Phil, I got somebody contact me. That's nothing. I have tens of thousands of comments like per day. So I know it's working because I'm literally seeing almost nobody being affected by it on my channel. The problem is now what they do is they go to other channels, something I never even thought of. Like I said, I just don't, I'm not criminally minded. I'm not thinking like these guys. So what they do now is they'll go on to Daryl Braun's channel. They'll go on to, and I don't want to specifically say him because I don't know, but they're going on another YouTube channel and now they're saying they're me because they're not filtering all this stuff. So like, hey, it's Phil McKnight. You won. I don't know why. I don't know why if you're on Robert Baker's channel, why if I was telling you you won, you would like think it's me, but I get it. It's confusing, right? And so now what happened to me was earlier this week, somebody sent me a message saying, Phil, I got a message from you and it said to give you money. And they're like, I don't think it's you. And I'm like, well, there's no way you got that message because I have it all blocked out. So I'm going through my filters, I'm looking, and nothing is getting through on my channel. I'm like, how is that possible? And I'm like, what did you two do wrong? I'm filtering, I'm doing all this stuff. And then we figured it out. They were getting a message on another YouTube channel and it was saying it was me. And then I started noticing that they're doing it all over the place. So they're going to, let's say they'll go to Daryl Braun's channel and they use the name Robert Baker, and they go to, Mary Spinner's channel and they use the name someone else, right? So so obviously everybody's trying to make you aware of this stuff, but this is also why I'm telling you right now that long ass story to tell you, I'm going to give this away right now, but I'm telling you, I am not going to be giving anything away on the channel other than in real time like this, or contacting you externally outside of YouTube. And when I contact you, you will physically talk to me on the phone. So they'll have to copy my voice, right? Don't send anybody any money ever, and don't sign up for anything. So some people are like, oh, because some of you guys don't give a crap about people, and you'll go, oh, well, only idiots would give them money. Well, you know what? Everybody's an idiot sometimes. It happens. Not everybody's not fallible. But also, you got to understand, it's more than just money you can give them. You can give them information. You can sign up and sign into a system. So there's all kinds of things. So just like I said, be safe out there. But right now, we're going to give this away in real time. I'm going to pick the person, and you're going to contact me. You email me when you win. And who are we going to pick? We're going to pick somebody. Okay. Let's do this. All I want you to do in the comments right now is tell me how many of these do I own. That's it. I said it. I've said it publicly, probably on this and in the video somewhere. So how many of these do I own? And in the next minute, I'm gonna pick one of you guys that give the answer. How many of the Taurus servo pedals do I personally own? Okay. And Nathan. Okay, hold on, funny. I'm looking, and of course, as always, I try to go for the first. And the first one I see, and again, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I've double checked. I see Daryl McMillan. Daryl McMillan says I have two of these. I do have two of these. I like this pedal so much that I purchased a second one. And for the record, Taurus Pedals did not take my money. When I purchased it, they sent me an email saying, hey, we saw you try to buy one of these. We're just going to send you a second one. So I have one of these on each one of my boards. That's how much I like this pedal. I can't live without it. And so, Daryl McMillan, you do not have to pay me to ship this to you. You do not have to text me or DM me, and I don't want to, right? Please, all you have to do is email me at my PMcKnight, my public email address, PMcKnight7, and just put in the subject matter your name or this name of this pedal so I know to see it when I see the emails, because there's a lot. So I see it, and I will personally contact you, and we'll get your address, and my wife will ship this out sometime next week, and you have now got one of my favorite pedals. So, and yeah, so like I said, and it's the only, I think it's the only pedal. Nah, I can't say that. I was gonna say it's the only pedal I have two of, but I don't think that's true. But it's one of the few pedals that I love it so much I have to have like it on two different boards, which is, I think, pretty bougie, right? It's like, is that right? Just that makes me feel like a little a little like it's over the top. You know, oh, I got to have it on both my pedal boards. That's how cool I am. So there you go. And at least we got to talk about the scams and stuff and tell you guys what I'm doing. And if you're a YouTube channel, you can do the same thing. Just go into your thing and filter all those words out. And I would definitely do that. I don't know if you want to go through all the trouble I do through approving them all every day, but I don't want anybody to get filtered out. And it's catching everything. And so, you know, I got a couple people, just for the record, got a couple people saying like, why are you blocking me, Phil? And I'm like, just give me, you know, I'm sorry. It filtered out. I think one of the words that got filtered out was, not one, but it was something like that, you know, right? And I was like, look, you know, stuff's getting filtered right now until we figure out, until YouTube does something. That's what everybody, right? There's even multiple million subscriber channels basically pleading publicly with YouTube to please do something about all these scams. I mean, it's not hard to figure out how lucrative these things are for these guys to do this stuff to us. And so we just got to be, you know, we'll persevere. I'll filter and read comments. At least now I get to read more comments than I ever did before. It's good and bad. I'll tell you this. Side note, this is just something to say, but it's just the truth. I was telling my wife this. I go, the only thing that really sucks about filtering all these comments from these scam guys is now I have to prove them. Is now like my cursor hovers over like sometimes the crappy comments about me, and I'm like, prove. It's me just sitting there reading these, going, oh. You just don't want to do it. I can tell you the worst I've done so far is I go, I'll come back to it in 30 minutes. I don't want to read this guy's crap right now. And then I'll come back 30 minutes later, like after like dinner or something, and I go, approve. So there you go. I will tell you this. If you guys do want to help out, and this is going to sound like, you know, it's just going to sound the way it's going to sound, but it's the truth. If you guys subscribe to me publicly, so not only do you have to subscribe to the channel, you don't have to have the bell notification, all that stuff, but if you subscribe to the channel, it's also public. In other words, you can choose to have your subscriptions private or public. It's up to you. If you subscribe to me publicly, it does help me because the scam artists don't do that, obviously, because for a lot of reasons. And so what's nice is what I do quickly is if your comments are held up from all the block words, I go in there and I hit public subscribers, and it gives me a list, and I hit approve all. And I can pump out like 200 approvals in a second because I go, okay, at least I know, you know, the scammers don't do that. And I know what you're thinking, the scammers could do that, but I don't think they're going to, because then it puts them on my radar. Remember, they're trying to stay off the channel's radar so they can scam you guys. So, all right, there you go. All right, let's go to some questions. We have Patrick, who says, "Hey Phil, I have a 4-year-old Strat with hot noiseless pickups in it. Suddenly they are humming and buzzing similar to regular single coils. How do I diagnose this problem?" Well, it's most likely not going to be the pickups. There's nothing the pickups would do. Nothing in the pickups design is something that would fail, and then all of a sudden you go, "Oh no," you know, right? There is, because here's why. Because they are remember, they're stacked. They're humbuckers. So they're stacked on top of each other, and the wire is coming over the sides of the bobbin. It's really thin, and it can be scraped and frayed and cut. And it's not likely that one of the coils gets cut and then you're back to single coil mode, because most likely if that wire gets cut, then you're killing the entire sound altogether. So that's not a likely situation. What is likely is that something inside the guitar is grounded or touching and not grounded, right? Something is changed in the wiring, and that happens. Things get loose, and then in the cavity, there's things that are going on, and like I said, things can touch each other or break. So what I would do to diagnose the problem is I would say, hey, it's restring day for you. Go ahead, take the strings off, be prepared to put some new strings on, take all the screws off the pickguard, pull the pickguard out, and flip it over, and go through and look. And I use, as you guys see, I use a chopstick, right? I have a nice chopstick, but you can use anything. Just use something wood or plastic, and use it to poke around. And that's what I use it for, because you want to poke at wires and stuff to see if anything breaks free, because if it's, or if it moves, sometimes it looks like it's connected, it's not. Another thing that's nice about that is you can plug it into your amplifier and clean at a low volume setting, because you don't want it to pop the speaker, and you move stuff around and you'll hear stuff too. And that's the best, easy way to do it. And that'd be my guess, is that it's not the pickups that did it, it's something connected to the pickups that's causing that problem, is what my guess would be. Especially since you said pickups are doing it. And like I said, that frayed, something happened to a pickup to do that would be possible. But my guess is no, it wouldn't happen to all the pickups. And again, remember, these pickups can be coil split like a humbucker, essentially. So something could be in there doing that as well. So just check around, look around there. BRMR says, hey, Phil, any thoughts on the Eastman Les Paul Juniors, SB55, DC versus Gibson Juniors, or specials, other brands to consider? I like the Eastman stuff, man. To me, when I think of like good quality guitars in that vein, obviously I think of the Eastman, I think of Gibson, and I think of Heritage. Those are my three big ones that kind of pop at me as being like traditional high-end kind of thing. Of course, the Eastman stuff is it's expensive, but it's import and it's really good. I've been looking for an Eastman for myself personally and just looking for the right one. So those are the only thing I would suggest to you is, besides those two brands you're looking at, which is Gibson and Eastman, is look at Heritage. So that Heritage is another brand I highly recommend to you that is in that same quality vein, using good materials and good guitars. And I like the older Heritages. I haven't tried a whole lot of the new ones, so I don't have any problems with the new ones. I just not versed in them, so I can't really recommend something I haven't touched, haven't worked on them, haven't checked them out, nothing. Jay Martinez says, for the recovering from Moab trip fund. Hey man, I appreciate that. That was really nice of you. I don't have to recover from Moab. Did I tell you guys the irony of that? Was I told you that video was funny because I said, the video was called like, okay, this didn't go as planned. And everybody's like, what didn't go as planned? I'm like, well, the fact that we went there was 108 and we thought it was going to be 98. That's what didn't go as planned, right? It was way hotter than we thought, and we just ended up doing it anyways, doing all the hikes and stuff. The funny part was when we got back, the weather here was great because the temperature had dropped. So it was kind of funny. We left the place to our place was normally hot. We left and it dropped. The temperature dropped. And the place went to their temperatures, had a spike. Damien says, hey, Phil, I put vintage 64 pickups in my telly. They sound far away, almost like there is reverb built in. However, they seem hot, gritty, and overdriven. Thoughts? Yes. So, because they're older pickups, there could be a ton of things going on. But again, I would say you need to go through and check all the connections. Pickups generally do not go bad. It's not a common thing for a pickup to go bad. You hear about people rewinding, pickups and having to put new wire on. That does happen, but it's not something that's normal. You're not going to see that as a repair. It's not the most common repair when you have a pickup. I feel pretty safe in saying that if you're having an issue with a guitar, a lot of people, that's the number one thing everybody tells you. When you're a tech, everyone tells you your pickup isn't working. And when it's a tech, going into it, most likely it's going to be everything but the pickup that's causing the problem. It's going to be the wiring. It's going to be the potentiometers. It'll be the switch. It's going to be the output jack. There's going to be a ton of things going on in that guitar that are going to be the problem over so the pickups. So here's what I can tell you as a quick, easy way, if you don't have any other equipment, to check those pickups, especially on something like a telly. What you can do is take the plate, the telly electronics plate off with two screws, right? Pull it out. You're going to have your three-way switch and your volume and your tone control. And what I want you to do, I would just go ahead and desolder. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. But what I would do is, while they're connected, let's use like the bridge pickup. Just pick one. I don't care which one. For this argument, we'll use the bridge. What I want you to do is take the bridge pickup, again, plug it into an amplifier at a low, clean setting, low. And what I want you to do is take something metal, like a screwdriver, be careful, of course, right? And tap on the slug on the pickup just lightly so you can hear it. I want you to just use your ear, okay? Whatever you're hearing the string sound like, the slug is going to have a similar kind of vibe sound to it. And when you tap on it, it's going to sound distant, echoey, thin, okay? Then what I want you to do is go ahead and desolder that pickup, okay? This is what I would do, so desolder the pickup from the terminals on the switch, and go ahead and wire it right to an output jack, okay? If you have one, that's great. If you don't, you could just go to your output jack, or you could just wrap those wires around. You would wrap the ground wire to the shaft of the guitar cable, and wrap the hot wire to the tip, where you see a black ring. This all makes sense when you look at it. There's a black ring on a guitar cable that separates the tip from the sleeve, because the sleeve is ground and the tip is the hot. And you just wrap it on there, okay? And then tap on the slug. In other words, I want you to bypass all the electronics. And I want you to see if the problem stays with the pickup. If it stays with the pickup, you know it's the pickup. That's an easy way to do it. I have, so you know, is I have a guitar cable with alligator clips on one side, so I can just clip onto that, you know, the two wires that pick up. If you have something like that, or you want to make something like that, it's very inexpensive. Get a couple of alligator clips, solder them up. But either way, you want to bypass that. Just go pick up straight to, and listen to the tapping on that. Or you can just leave it in, you know, 'cause it's in the guitar. You can strum the guitar and have it go straight to amp. But bypass all that electronics and see if the problem persists. Sounds to me like, again, kind of like the other problem we talked about just earlier with the other guitar, sounds to me like something is grounding or touching, or something is happening, or something is not connected correctly, and you're going to get all kinds of things like that. And like I said, I would just go with that, Occam's razor, right? That's going to be the simplest solution. It's going to be most likely not the pickup. Yours, I'm less confident of than the other person's problem, because your pickups are 50 something years old, 58 years old, pickups. So, there's things that can happen to pickups that, because what could be happening is at some point, because you don't know what happened to those pickups, they're not new, right? So one thing and again, I'm going to be very cautious when I tell you this, because I don't want you to, this is not likely, it's just possible. What could have happened is they could have been rewound at some point and the person not know what they're doing, and the wire is not very tight and it's loose. And what you're hearing is the wire around the pickup, on the neck pickup, the 43 gauge wire just reverberating. That happens. Or it could be, it's not likely it came loose, but I mean, like I said, so somebody could have done something to those pickups. And then, this is the problem. That's why I said isolate the problem to the pickups, because that's what we don't know. We don't know if it's your electronics or your pickups. And once it's your pickups, the good news is this: they're not bad no matter what. I can tell you right now, you can just rewind them, put new wire on them, and they'll be fine. They'll still have that magic sound too. They won't sound the same, because they don't have all those years. The wire won't have all those years on it, but the magnets will, and it will give it that softer sound. So I love old pickups for that reason. The same reason I like old speakers, right? They're just, as the magnets, kind of lose some of the gauze as things age, they just get softer, and they don't have as a bright, to me, my ears don't detect the bright attack that a lot of newer pickups and speakers and things tend to have. I love that. So, John says vintage 64s are new pickups. I didn't know if he's talking about the reissues or he has, because he just says I have vintage 64 pickups. So again, if he has new pickups, then like I said, everything holds true. I'm just saying if he has actual 58-year-old pickups, then we could be dealing with somebody done something to the pickups. But if they are new pickups, I'm definitely thinking it's your wiring, for sure. Justin says, I am currently undergoing my first professional refinish on a 78 Fender Music Master. What do you think of Sparkle Salmon for a custom color? I like Sparkle, man. I'm a Sparkle a fan. Obviously, my Charvel Sparkle. I have a ton of guitars of Sparkle. I like Sparkle stuff. I like paint jobs. I'm a paint job person. In fact, and it's, I know it gets tricky sometimes, because behind me there's guitars and there's been discussion internally over this. How many of these guitars, are they visiting for the channel? Are these my personal guitars? Can we mix them? And then maybe that's confusing to you guys. But here's what I can tell you. A lot of times it's really easy. My personal guitars will always be painted. That doesn't guarantee it's mine, but if you look, it's very rarely do you see, like for instance, this guitar is about to be reviewed, this beautiful wood guitar that's not mine, because I tend to buy the orange Sparkle, the blue Sparkle, the green Sparkle metallic. These are metallics, I should say. That's metallic Sparkle, and then metallic. My Kiesel, the crackle finish. The Ibanez is a metallic finish. So I like paint jobs. And it's all for, it's for me, it was as simple as this. When I was a kid, people didn't really get a lot of wood guitars, right? A lot of the electric guitars were painted, and the expensive ones had fancy paint jobs on them. So I kind of just connect fancy paint jobs to expensive, even though now you can get really fancy paint jobs cheap. But as a kid, It was always the expensive guitars had the fancy paint jobs. And that's why I like matching painted headstocks. Matching painted headstocks for a lot of companies were a big deal because, you got a black headstock on every guitar or no paint on a headstock, and you got the body painted. And if you got the premium guitars would always have the matching paint headstocks. The rock stars always seem to have their headstocks painted to match the body on their guitars. So over time, I just associate that to, that's expensive. Like you see my Telly right here with the matching body and headstock. That's why I like that stuff, because some people go, it looks wrong. I like it with no paint at headstock. And I don't disagree. Like I said, I associate that with expensive and it's true because companies, as I told you, I've been to, dozens and dozens of factories, and all factories will tell you that it's an expense for them. They all charge you more money for it. Alex says, how does amp wattage work? Okay. I'm looking at a Blackstar HT5 RH tube head and cab, but 5 watts sound like 5 watts sound like so little when I see amps with 50 to 100 watts. It is good for an apartment playing, or will it be dinky? Okay. To keep it super simple, first of all, because I already can kind of see in my head where the comment sections are going to go with this, because everybody kind of knows the general idea of this, which is the watts really don't dictate a whole lot. I like to refer to this always as I did this video series, 2 videos where we had a real band play a bunch of 5-watt amps and 25-watt amps, small amplifiers, right? When the little toaster amps became a big deal, we did like, a dozen of them, 2 dozen of them, and we had our band use them. And what we learned in that video was the wattage was not the deciding factor. And the price wasn't the deciding factor, although more expensive amps were louder. What really the deciding factor was how nice the output transformer was. That seemed to have a big deal with how loud the amp overall was. And that doesn't mean that's proof of that. It just means that's what we learned from that. What I have since learned when it comes to wattage with amps is that amps are just different. Not only if they have, a master volume and if they have a gain control, all that stuff factors in. But to me, how big they sound and how small they sound is not only different, but it happens at different times in the amp's volume. So what I want to talk about with you and your problem is not how loud an amp gets and how quiet an amp gets. It's where the amp's sweet spot is. Something I find a lot of times we don't talk about. So what I mean by that is some amps, you turn them up to like 2 or 3 and they sound great, and you turn them down and then they get thin and they sound horrible. So to me, although I love that amp, I would say at light night practice, it's going to sound thin because it's too quiet. When it gets quiet, it gets thin. Some amps, as they turn up, they start farting out and they don't sound really good. So there's all kinds of things that can happen. What I can tell you that will hopefully help you is that if you want a Blackstar HT5R, which is the 5-watt head with reverb, and you want to use it for an apartment planning, you have a fantastic product. It will do everything you want it to, and it's great. And you could even use it for a small gig. So I wouldn't expect a whole lot out of it, but it's got a direct out. It's definitely giggable. You could gig it. You could take it to a small jam. You could do that, but definitely it's going to sound great, quiet. It's going to have no problems. So, and I think that's the core of what you want to find out, right? You want to know if it's the right amp for you for that. And I would say yes. Yeah. And then of course, buy it somewhere where you have a good return policy just in case, but I like that amp. I like Blackstar stuff. The only complaint you get from most people on Blackstar is that, they have reliability issues, but they're inexpensive, and all inexpensive stuff. That seems like a brushstroke too broad, right? Not all inexpensive stuff has reliability issues, but that is something hand in hand. I feel confident telling you if you got a 5-watt Blackstar amp, you will get your money out of it. In other words, it'll last as long as what you paid for it, right? Austin says, Phil, I'm moving to Tucson from the humid southeast. Any tips to protect my guitars from the desert? I love the show. Yeah, it's going to get dry here. And so obviously that. But what does that mean for your guitars? Well, it means your acoustic guitars, what you really want to worry about is your bracing drying out, because the bracing is going to dry out faster than anything else. And even the top, sometimes it's just the way it works here, man. It's just here, it's so dry. And in Tucson, especially in the summertime, you have monsoon season where it gets really humid and then it gets really dry again. So you get kind of like, it's really bad for guitars because it's spiking. They get a lot of moisture and then they get dried out, and then they get a lot of moisture and then they get dried out. And it's not really, guitars, like I said, guitars don't like that. They don't like going hot to cold, cold to hot, vice versa, dry to wet. They don't like the extreme changes. So in your case, what I would just be aware of is acclimating them to the new current environment. And one of the things you can do is you can get a humidifier for that, or you can make sure if you have an acoustics. Acoustics are more so what you're worried about, obviously, making sure they have humidifiers for a little while. Let them slowly dry out. They will dry out. There's just no way. Some players will say, hey, you can get a room humidifier. You can. You'll never get it to 60% humidity here. not because here's the problem. Because the problem is the humidifier is fighting the air conditioning in here, right? Your central air here is drying out the air. So if it's hot outside, it's not just the dry heat outside. It's your AC has to dry out the air to cool it down. So and if you run your humidifier, the AC is going to run even harder to dry out that air. And so you're in a constant fight. Your electric guitars, what you will worry about, of course, is fret sprout because your fretboards shrink. What I would do is oil them, right, with some fretboard conditioner. A lot of people say they don't, like it. Some people don't like it. What I will tell you is just make sure, don't do it often. Just do it once when they get here. I wouldn't overly worry about all this stuff, just like I said. But the best thing you can do also is pay attention. So you'll see it. You'll see stuff drying out. It's wood. It just starts drying out. Just make sure it, like I said, you want this process. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. Okay. It's going to dry out. You just want to slow the process down so that the wood doesn't have anything drastic so it cracks or, and also cut your cost down because you don't want to have to do all that fret work and stuff. So there you go. That's what I would worry about. Yes. What's funny is Blackjack Guitar says, just because it's a good subject, Black Star amps don't make their diagrams available. If you guys know, the guitarologist Brad had did a video talking about this. I had talked to Brad since that video. We had a conversation. We were just talking, and this came up. We were talking, and one of the questions and so it's funny because when he makes a video, he's no different than me and vice versa. When you make a video and you talk about all your talking points and then you put your video out to the world, it's like I said, it's a pie, it's baked. Now the pie's out there. And I agree with him, everything he said about Black Star, and making those diagrams not available. The question I asked him, which was funny because I said, here's my question to him because I'm not an amp guy. He's an amp guy. I'm a guitar guy, repair guy. And I said, one of the things I said, I don't know what happens to him is in my world, inexpensive guitars, like really inexpensive guitars, people won't pay me to do the repairs that they need, right? I mean, you buy a guitar for $150 and I'm quoting you $250 in repairs, you're just like, I'm not going to do it. So I asked him, I said, but do people pay to fix a Black Star? Will people pay you $250 for a fix an amp they can buy for $349 new? And he said, not normally. So we were agreeing that, yeah, it's like, but, sometimes he wants to fix them because he just wants to fix them. And sometimes you have a customer who's like, I'm not letting this thing die. I'm going to fix it and keep it going. And God bless him for that because, who wants to see that stuff go in the landfill? But I also understand the other side. Like I said, I've done repairs for so long with people. I understand, people have to, it's their money. They work for it and they put their value on it. But yes, Black Star won't give you stuff. But that's why I said the thing with Black Star, and I've reviewed them and I've talked about them and I've bought them, me personally. And I think with companies like that, I have realistic expectations on that stuff. It's just like Behringer stuff. Again, I'm never knocking this stuff by any means. But to me, if you buy yourself a really expensive amplifier and, and 2 years later it burns up, or a year later it burns up, I can see where you're like, that's, you're a little aggravated. To me, when you buy more affordable price products and they don't last as long, I think there's a little bit of it's not that it's all right. It's just, I think it's a little bit understood. That's one of the things that you're taking into consideration when you buy them. At least you should, the saying, buy nice or buy twice. Like I said, I can recommend a lot of stuff that I think is better than Black Star, but everything is almost twice the price. So you have to think about that. If that's something that matters to you. Both ways, whether it's your money or you want it to last. Okay, DWC says, hey, Phil, new guitar day. Oh, congratulations. 15% off on a Fender from a local shop that was having an overstock sale. Thought that was interesting. Love the show. Yes, Fender, obviously, we know, has tons of overstock. A lot of companies have overstock, but Fender seems to be the most noticeable right now because they're being so aggressive with the discounting. We're going to see a lot of that overstock. Look, we're seeing stuff. I was looking at a guitar this morning, sent the link to a friend saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking about getting. And the guitar right now is $600 less than I've seen it in the last 2 years. It's used, but you can see the prices adjusting down, of course, as the market softens. So yeah, congratulations. And it's good. I think there's a lot of us right now are all doing the same thing. They're like, you're waiting to see how much less things are going to be in a couple weeks, couple months, because it's not going to go, they're not going to go back up for a little while. They're going down. So everybody has different theories on that. So, like I said, whether or not the market will just tank, we're just talking about guitar markets. So this is guitar. We don't have to talk about anything else. Whether or not the guitar market will tank and it's going to be a buyer's dream in a couple months, or, what's going to happen. I personally think, like I said, you got a lot of things happening at the same time. You have, like I said, as demand goes down and there's prices come down, remember there's still supply chain issues. There's still things going on. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be a free for all soon. I think you will just notice things keep going down. I think it'll just keep slowing, and I don't even think it's going to crash. Not what I see now. I just see things are going to continue to get softer in the guitar market. If things outside the guitar market in the world happen, of course it'll affect this. But based on what I see now, that's just what I see. Gene, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Sasha says, thoughts on the Gibson G-Force tuners. Just got a Les Paul with them on used, so not supporting Gibson being mean to Dean. Okay. The G-Force tuner. So obviously we're talking about the Robo tuners and stuff from Tronicle, right? Tronicle or Tronicle? It's Tronicle. Remember, like I said, I said this. I hated the decision that Gibson made that a mandatory thing and put them on all their guitars. I think that was obviously it was a bad decision because they've recognized that. I also thought that they should have gone with the Epiphone line first. I understand the logic in doing it the way they did. Believe it or not, I'm not saying it was a bad idea. I just think that I think they obviously, with hindsight, but even without the hindsight, I originally thought they should have done it with the Epiphone line first. I think their logic was, like a lot of companies, which a lot of consumers don't understand when anything, companies, you got to put stuff on your high-end stuff and then you bring it down, right? That's kind of like the logic for a lot of stuff. And I think that was our logic. We'll put it on Gibson. Everybody in the world will have to have it, and then we'll put it on Epiphone. And it backfired on them because they didn't really recognize their own customer base. But that being said, I like them. In fact, I've been looking at a set of them for a Strat style guitar for the last few weeks. I like the Robo tuner idea, the Tronicle stuff. I don't love the idea, but I like it. To me, we've been talking about Evertune bridges for a while. And slowly it started realizing Evertune bridges and Robo tuners are kind of the same thing. There's this thing that just basically keeps your guitar in tune. But yet the tuners on the headstock are less more invasive to cutting up the guitar and adding the Evertune system. So I've actually been on this kick now where I'm like, I want to get a set, put them on a guitar, and we're talking about trying the Evertune system and doing that video. And I want to talk about these two things and see how different are they? Are they doing the same thing? Because they kind of come across like they're doing the same thing. They can keep your guitar in tune, but I think that the tuners can do more, way less, cost less damage to change, I should say, to a guitar. I shouldn't say damage. And so they might actually be the smarter move. We'll see. I'm working on that. I'm working on that whole video. I don't know how it's going to unfold, but I'm sure it will be enlightening. At least to me, so hopefully to you as well. So that's my thought on that. Like I said, I don't want to buy a $3,000 Gibson that has Robo tuners on it, slapped on it. And again, there's also the worst things they did was that new nut they did and the new script and all. I mean, everything about that series was a bad idea. But the tuners were the least of my complaints, and how they worked. Okay. Grumpy Mike Guitar says, King's X is amazingly tight live, huge sound and killer tone. Yes. Absolutely. He just when we were talking about King's X earlier, absolutely. I got to tell Doug Pennick this, and it was great when I did the interview. I don't think it's on the interview. I think was pre-talk. We do some pre-talk when you do interviews. You talk for maybe 5 minutes if you're lucky. Sometimes if you're 10 minutes, because you're just trying to get a sense of, set the vibe and the tone. And I had to tell him this, and I said, hey, I've seen you guys so many times live, and I said, and there's a joke me and my friends say, and it's called never. The joke is never let King's X open for you. And he looked at me and I go, because you're just too damn good. And he laughed. He obviously knew it was a compliment and he took it really well. But I wanted to just tell him, because it's not just to be funny. We tell it all the time. Like every band we've ever seen, I've never seen King's X where they weren't opening for somebody. And every band I've seen with King's X was great. Like whether it was Extreme or somebody else, it was always a great band. They were great players who sounded great too, and they were tight. But just every time King's X stole the show. And yeah, like I said, that would be my advice for any band. Don't let King's X open for you, because they set the bar pretty high. In Cortex says, "Hey Phil, how come Sadowski guitars aren't as popular as their basses?" Oh, okay, that's I know Roger. He's a great guy, and his instruments are fantastic. Is it just more competition from Sir and the like? Well, it has to do with obviously with Roger, right? Roger, I don't know if you know. I know Roger Sadowski. I met him. I got to hang out with him in Germany, and super smart guy. And we had breakfast a couple times and we talked, and Roger really hit the scene. Here's what it is. It's no different than any other business model. Okay. His basses are great. His guitars are great. But what made him wasn't that he did guitars for Prince, wasn't that he did guitars for famous people. What made Roger hit the scene and what made Sadowski, so big was he did active preamps and basses, like right when it took off, right? Obviously, Marcus Miller came to him and said, "Hey, I want to put an active system," because those of us bass players remember there was no active systems, and then one day active systems were taken off. They were like seriously, active electronics for basses were no different than the Floyd Rose. It hit, and it hit big, and everybody was running to every music store to get that installed. Like, gut my guitar and shove a Floyd Rose in it, gut my bass and stick active electronics in it. It was like literally almost like the way those two markets went off. They were huge and fast. And Roger was a pioneer in that market at that time. He was the guy in New York. If you had a bass and you wanted active, you went to Roger. And so you either bought his bass or you bought his system and had it put in your bass. And so Roger kind of made that happen. And so I think with that, sure, there's a little bit of Roger's going to lean into that because, like any business, that's what you do, and he does well. And I think he did that. And then also, that doesn't translate over to the guitars very well. So the fact that he makes really great guitars, it doesn't really give him, Roger makes the best active electronics and his basses are great, and his guitars. You know what I mean? You don't see that very often. It's very rare for a bass company, a predominantly bass company, to get the guitar market. And you guys don't probably remember this because it seems so different now. But when you think of Music Man, remember Music Man couldn't give away a guitar to save their life. Pre Eddie Van Halen. That didn't happen. Sure, everybody was looking at Music Man basses. Everybody played them. They were fantastic. But a Music Man guitar, the fact that they were great quality meant nothing. They were expensive. They were weird looking. And no one played them. And then Eddie played them, and then bam, it was on the radar. And then, of course, Eddie left, and he went to Peavey. But more importantly, what happens next was Petrucci comes, and same thing. He puts him on the radar. And it's not necessarily even their signature models that does it, but you got to understand, then the artist, they give the credibility to the instrument. They basically say, okay, this is good. This is the level that you want it to be. And it makes total sense because a good example, there's a ton of companies that can't cross over. Obviously, to me, the biggest example is Warwick Framus. Warwick has, like I said, amazing basses. No one questions it. They're top 5. And I told Hans this at his house once. I said, Warwick is in the top 5. If I named 5 of the greatest bass companies ever in the world, Warwick hits the list in 5. Top 5, that's crazy considering Fender's like the dominant market, right? You got Fender, you got Music Man, we'll say Warwick, right? That's just 3, but they're in the top 5. And Framus isn't even in the top 50 guitar brands not for quality, but for sales, for notoriety, for when you're talking about that list. and it's been hard for them. And what's really hard too, it's the same thing with Roger is, and I can't speak specifically about Roger in this, but I can talk about Hans and Framus Warwick, which is one of the problems when you have a company that's doing really well, like Warwick and like Sadowski, and you're selling lots of basses, and you try to put some effort in your guitars, and it's hard to go back to the drawing board. It's hard to go out there and earn a customer one at a time when you already have a great customer base. So a lot of times they push their guitars, but not very hard, because again, they don't want to give, to get into a market. We've seen it. You've seen it when I do reviews, and I tell you guys always up front when I think a company is giving you way too much for way too little for market value. Happens all the time. I go, look, this company, this is a great product at the price, and it's because they want to sell and get into the market. And so you have to kind of give a lot away. And I don't think Sadowski, just like I don't think Warwick, and I don't Music Man didn't want to do it either. They don't want to give away, the best for nothing, which is what you have to do to get into that market for a while. And BC Rich 501 says, didn't Eddie get booted from Ernie Ball for very sordid reasons? No, that's not true. He left Ernie Ball Music Man because there's a ton of theories on why he left, but you understand, Ernie Ball had introduced him to Peavey Hartley, and they did the 5150 amp. And there is a ton of things. Like, I always believe there's no one reason why something happens, right? It's a perfect storm. So with Eddie, could it be a sordid thing? Could it be all these things? Sure. But there are some factual things that you can't say didn't have any merit. So can somebody have a rumor of why this happened? Absolutely. But here was a thing that really did happen, which is Music Man was making the guitars, but they weren't making enough of those guitars. That was a fact. That they weren't making the demand, and they've admitted that publicly. They were like they were gearing up to. Remember, they were increasing their facility size, and at the time, Hartley was in a sweet spot. Remember, because Eddie just made Peavey. He just made Peavey, happen. Because again, kind of like what we talked about, Music Man. No one, everyone was buying Peavey because it was affordable. No one was buying it because it was cool. And when Eddie all of a sudden had a 5150, again, it's a generational thing. Everybody's going to have a different feel for that. But most of the 40 to 50-year-olds right now are going, yeah. Like when Eddie did 5150s, everybody walked in the store and went, what? Like I would never consider a PV as a rock amp. And yet now all of a sudden it's like the go-to amp. And so PV, obviously, as soon as they sensed any opportunity to work with Eddie on a guitar, they took it. So there's a lot of things that probably happened, but the big thing you have to understand is that Peavey could do something that Music Man at the time could not do, that Music Man could do now, which is Peavey could guarantee product in stock and ready for dealers to ship. And that's one thing you have to think about, because I think I've told you this. I've interviewed some of these people in the past, and when talking to them, what I really pay most attention to is not the stories, not everybody's version of events. It's what do they say that's the same? And they all seem to agree. The Peavey side and the Music Man side seem to agree. And as you guys know, and I don't want to bring them into this because, as you know, I'm really good friends with Larry DiMarzio, who did the pickups for the Music Man guitar. So I know some of the stuff that he's told me. And all I will tell you about that is a lot of the stuff he told me lines up with what I've heard everywhere else, which is, again, it's a volume thing. Eddie sells a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of issues with Music Man not being able to hit that volume. That's a factor. So like I said, is that the only thing? No. Is it all the other stuff possible? Yes. The only reason I tell you that is because, again, that's just it's information to have. And it always makes sense why he went to Peavey. Now, and then he leaves Peavey, and for whatever reason. We could talk about that another day. All right. Let's go to the next question. We have... Tom says, hey, Phil, what do you know about the state of Carvin audio today? I'm looking at purchasing a Carvin PA. Would you be worried about the quality or bad support or bad resale value? Thanks. I would say if you were looking at Carvin audio for PA, I would say there is a lot of great products out there that are the same and at a better value. So what do I know about Carvin? Because I have worked with the new Carvin audio people before. I reviewed their the Steve Vai pedal and then the other pedal that they put out. Both of those videos are on my channel, and they sent those to me, and I did the videos. Okay, so I have talked to that side of the family. There's obviously, like I said, they're the cousins of Jeff and those guys, and what I can tell you is that Carvin side of the business shut down all of the U.S. side. They shut down the U.S. facility. They shut down the manufacturing process. None of that doesn't exist. The pedals that I reviewed are made in the USA, but they are OEM'd. They're made by somebody else. I believe the company. I don't know the name of the company, but I believe they're made in Texas because they were both shipped to me from Texas. So either they're warehoused in Texas or they're made in Texas. But Carvin is in California. Carvin Audio is in California. The brother and sister that run it are in California, so they have those OEM'd. Everything else, as far as I know, their PA speakers, their wireless units, their other pedal power things, all that stuff is imported overseas. None of it's made in the USA. And it's all OEM. It's made by somebody else. In fact, I even showed you guys in a video, or we talked about here, that they make a thing that actually Harley Benton has one too as well. And Harley Benton will sell you the same exact thing for like $70, $80 less. And it is the same unit. And I even reached out to Carvin for confirmation, and all they would confirm with me is that they have their spec'd differently. But they wouldn't tell me what the specs were. The specifications were that was different. So you got to understand how, like I said, I like that term broad brush stroke. How broad of a brush stroke that is. That's like me saying like, hey, I have my own signature guitar and it's made in the same factory as Harley Benton. It's the same as them, but I spec'd it differently. And you go, what's different? I go, I don't know. I spec'd it differently. And the specification is mine's blue and theirs is red. Right? Like I told the factory do blue. So again, I'm not saying that's what they did, but I'm saying that they couldn't articulate to me a very easy question, which is, why is yours different than Harley Benton's, even though they are made in the same factory, the same unit, and Harley Davidson's is much less money? And there was no real articulate answer that I thought was good. I like them. They seem like nice people. Like I said, obviously I was more than happy to review and talk about their pedals because I like Steve Vai and I like those artists and I like those pedals and I like those amps and I like the fact they're still made in the USA. That's a cool thing. But the rest of the stuff, it's not good or bad. It's just, I can tell you, it's all OEM'd in places where somebody else has the same product. That's why they look identical to somebody else's. So that's the only thing I would say. As for their warranties and their backing, I have no idea. I can tell you, hey, we can use the word allegedly. Allegedly, in other words, I can't confirm this. It's just something I've heard, is that, Kiesel has the right to use the name Carvin when making electric guitars. So Kiesel Guitars, which is Jeff Kiesel and his father, can make a Carvin guitar. They can do that, okay? Carvin Audio owns all the rights to all of the amplifiers, PA systems, and all that stuff. They do not own any of the rights to the Kiesel guitars. So I want to be very clear. This is for sure. Carvin Audio and Kiesel guitars are not connected in any way, shape, or form other than by blood. That's it. As companies, there is no crossover contamination with the companies, okay? They are separate. They're held separate. They're ran separate. They don't interact. And they have different agreements. In other words, like I said, Kiesel can make guitars and Carvin guitars as guitars, and Carvin Audio can make everything else besides guitars. That's fact. Here's what I heard, like I said, I can actually almost say it's rumor, but I heard that part of this agreement is that if one of them ever stops, like goes out of business, the other one, I guess, either can or will get ownership of the right to do the other products. So in other words, if Kiesel was to go bankrupt tomorrow and close, Carvin Audio would then now have the right, if they so wish to make Carvin and Kiesel guitars, right? Definitely the Carvin guitars. I don't know about Kiesel so much. Now, same thing. I am understanding is it's possible that if Carvin Audio goes out of business, that Kiesel, if they want to, could own the things. Like I said, this is kind of a rumor thing that and the reason I even know this rumor is because of that reason. They ran independently. Remember, you gotta understand, I've worked with both now. And working with both, like you guys, I had questions like, hey, how does this work? And the only thing I can tell you for sure is it was really clear to me that they're not connected. Okay, so both of them are very, very clear that they're not connected, and I believe that to be true through these interactions I've had. But I think that's what's going on with Carvin Audio. I think Carvin Audio's existence is mostly just so that they can retain the rights of Carvin Audio, and that's why they keep it going. I think. I don't know, but that being said, I like the two pedals I used. I could recommend them, and the rest of the stuff I have no idea. So, Pedally, what's up, Pedally? It says for the pedal jar. P.S. We're now a 2-Notes dealer. Oh, fantastic! I have a 2-Notes video that I'm almost done with. I think I told you guys about. That I'm very excited with. Again, kind of like talking about our impulse response talk. This was a cool idea. 2-Notes reached out to me, and they knew I'm a huge fan of obviously of all their products, but of one of their products. And then they said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a video?" And I'm like, "I already did a video on that product." And they said, "No, just something else." And then I pitched them an idea, and they liked it. And I was like, "Oh, cool!" So it's kind of a crazy deal, a crazy idea. And it's really fun because it's one of my favorite videos to work with a company. They're not paying me to do the video, and I'm not keeping the product that they sent me. It's on borrowed. What they are going to do, though, is compensate me for the things I have to buy in the video to do the video. So that's really cool. So I get to do, so that's like one of those things where it's like, hey, if money didn't matter to me, I'd buy all this stuff and try, do videos with it, right? Knowing that I can't recoup it because the video just doesn't make enough money to recoup the cost of buying things for it. And so they were able to say, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So, and when I do the video, it'll make sense. I'll explain what I'm doing. Okay, I won't make you too crazy. Basically, I was saying, hey, if I took one of your products and mixed it with an old time product from back in the day, I'd like to see what the results are. And they said, oh, that's a great idea. And I said, but I don't have that product, so I'd have to go buy it. So, you know what I mean? And so they gave me the money to buy it. It wasn't expensive, but it's still fun. Bruce says, just ordered a PRS S2 594. I have one of those. Do I have it here? How strange. I would have swore it was behind me. I don't. I have the PRS 594 thin line. It says, do you still have yours? Yeah. So, yeah, my PRS S2 594, I got rid of my real 594, real being core, and now I have the PRS 594 S2 thin line. I like the solid color. Mine's metallic blue. Remember I was telling you earlier, I'm just more about the colors. So I still have it in some form, I should say. Looking forward to getting it. I got the new color, Lake Blue from Sweetwater, called and got a deal. That's awesome. Thank you for always reminding us that you can call these places and get a deal. And also new color, Lake Blue. So that sounds great. Mine's metallic blue. I don't know the name of it. I'm always horrible at remembering the names of these colors, but. So yes, I do have a PRS S2 594. I just have a different one than the video I made of it. I don't have a video of the one I made, or the one I have now. I should maybe do a video. And what I did is exactly what you think. PRS sent me a 594 S2, and they let me keep it. And I liked it, but I wasn't loving the color. You know what I mean? I know that sounds like vain, but it's true. And so I sold it and took the money and bought this other one. So that's where it came out. I don't know, Gandagore, I don't know. I apologize. Which would you choose, SG or Noventa Telly? SG. Oh, SG Junior. I'm sorry, or Noventa Telly. SG Junior. It's probably not. I hope it's the answer you wanted, but it's what I would do. I would pick the SG Junior. David says, hey, Phil, from Sydney, Australia. I'm after a really smooth distortion. Not into overdrive or fuzz. I have a Strat with pearly gates, humbucker in the bridge, and a solid-state Marshall. I like Silverchair. Oh, man, that's a throw out there, right, to the band Silverchair. You're saying you like a smooth distortion? I'll tell you my favorite three. And obviously, I like the LPD Lawrence Petros 68. That's one I definitely love. I love the Love pedals, OD11. That one is probably the best deal so far out there. They don't make them anymore, but you can pick them up all the time for $100. And then another smooth overdrive that I really, really like would be. I mean, there's a ton, but I'm trying to think of the three that I just absolutely love. And the other one would probably be the either the Zen Drive, and again, you can get any kind of versions of this. And so, the Audio 11 is basically like a Zen Drive too. I like the Zen Drive as well. And all the versions of the Zen Drive that exist out there, all their iterations. And again, these are lighter overdrives, and I think they're smooth. When I think smooth, I mean, I don't think of it, being, like you said, you don't want the fuzz. Those are the ones I would go with. Any one of those three. Well, the reason why I tell you that is those are all three that I like. If I could only, if I had to pare down pedals, those are definitely never getting. I'm never getting rid of those three pedals. Those three pedals have been around. All three of those pedals I've had for many, many years. The 68, I think, is the newest one of those three, and I've had it since probably 2016, maybe 2017, 2016. And no, 2016, had to be 15 or 16. So that's the newest one of the three. And the other two I've had for even longer than that. So it tells you how much I like them, because think how much stuff I've tried over the years, and I'm still going back to those for that kind of tone. And I actually do this thing where I play one, and then when I kind of burn out on it, I switch to another one. So I rotate those three. I don't use them in conjunction with each other. HK says, "Hey Phil, could you please outline all the bad things that happen to acoustic guitars in hot UK weather?" Okay, my guitar plays buzzy like sitar. Is it the truss rod? ? What else to look for? Well, first thing, sure, with an acoustic guitar, because there's not a whole lot going on. If you're getting a lot of buzz, it's absolutely could be the neck. You want to make sure the neck has some relief in it. So definitely check the relief and make sure that that's a thing. Now, of course, you want to check the saddle to make sure it's not too low, but that's something I would definitely check. Is, like I said, make sure it has some relief, and then at that point, if you think the relief on the neck is fine on the acoustic, now you want to make sure the saddle is the proper height, and so you can shim that up, and that it's pretty easy. Acoustic guitars, when they either need a little adjustment or need a lot. So that's why, that's one thing I love about acoustic guitars. It's either a quick fix or it's going to be a nightmare. And although I don't like the nightmare part, most of the time it's quick fix. And like I said, and you're talking about in heat and stuff and weather, with acoustic guitars, the neck movement is more consistent issue with acoustic guitars. The necks move a lot. So tightening the truss rod and relieving the truss rod, loosening it are common. Mike Coffee, but he's coffee with a Y at the end, says, "For the coffee club, thanks for all you do." Thank you. I appreciate the coffee club. When I was in Moab, my wife and I are not into souvenirs, and we walked into a shop to get something to drink, and my wife, and she saw coffee beans, and she's like, "Do you guys roast your own coffee?" And they're like, "Yeah." So we bought 2 bags of coffee, and I'm drinking one right now this week, and I love that. That's a new thing that we start doing. I really enjoy a lot is when we go places. I like to buy a bag of coffee from a local roaster. It's been really fun doing that. The only downfall has been is sometimes you like it so much you contact them later to ship it and they don't ship, but still fun. Thank you, Mark Hall, for the super chat. He just did a super chat. Audio Acrylics says, "Hey Phil, thanks to you and the community, I left 25 years cooking over." Hold on a second. I got to read this again. He says, "Thanks to you and the community, I left 25 years cooking over the pandemic and found a place I love in Mesa Boogie and recently got promoted to line tech." Oh, he left cooking. Okay, I get it. So he was cooking for the last 25 years and now he's found a place okay. And I recently got promoted to line tech. I owe it all to the community. So he's working at Mesa Boogie now. That's awesome. That's great. What's funny is I know it is kind of hard to, I know you're typing on your phone and I'm reading stuff kind of wacky too. But what I love about that is, like I said, I'm a transplant is how I look at it. I had kind of, like I said, I got out of the Army and I went down to another world of corporate world. And then I came back to music and I got back into the music. And what's funny about this is I know the reason I'm telling you this, I know it's scary when you change. Like to me, it was a big deal. Like it was like so scary to go, how is this going to be? I already know what I've been doing the other thing for a while. And now what's great is, and I'm be curious to see how you feel. Like I don't hate my old life. I don't hate the other job. I don't hate the other thing I did. I don't go, oh, this is so great, and the other thing was horrible. I think I like the other thing and I like this more. So hopefully you have the same kind of situation that you like this more. But that's pretty cool to working for Mesa Boogie. I'm really interested in the new Mesa Boogie amps that they just came out with. Those are definitely on my radar for sure. So maybe I'll get lucky and I'll get one that you worked on. Meester did a super chat sticker. Thank you for the sticker. I appreciate that. Plaster something says, Populous says, hey, Phil, I received my Valiant mini bass yesterday. Wow, what a fantastic instrument. So grateful to have it. Mine is so light. They're all light, so that's what's great. Notice I didn't say the weights on the basses, and that's because we'd worked on that. I'll talk about that in a second. He says, do you know what strings are on it? Thank you so much. So it depends on if it came straight from Valiant or it came from us. So when we got them, we took the strings off and we put other strings on them. We went with a set of, I think we did Ernie balls, because we didn't have a whole lot of choices on the scale length for those strings. So, what's nice is, yes, the reason they're all light is the original prototype. One of the patrons bought the prototype from me, the one we were working on, so I could free up the cash to buy one of the actual production ones. I wanted one of the production ones, the ones you guys got too. And what happened was the original was ash and it was really heavy. So I told him, I said, hey, we got to get this weight down. So we went with alder, and that's how we were able to drop the weight, especially because of the body size and stuff. So every one of them, we wanted to spec them out light. And so all of them are on the lighter side. Some of them are 6 pounds, but some are 7, but none of them are 8, 9 pounds, none of them. So they were all very light. So, I thought that was going to be a thing. I thought we were going to have to weigh them all, but no one really asked. And I knew deep down, I'm like, they're all light, so we're all good because we checked them all. I'm glad you like it. It's a fantastic instrument. They did a fantastic job. It's like I said, no one I think got one didn't say that it wasn't super quality, and I think that's what the whole point was. And I think I've said this before. You can get short scale basses, but to me, it seems like it's harder to make a short scale bass good than it is a regular scale bass. So that's why doing it this short, 27-inch scale, was super short. So they have to make really, really. Every decision has to be important, and that's what those guys did. They did everything the right way. Quarters on neck, did the right hardware. They did everything the right way. The Smelly Cat's Jazz. Hey, what's up? He says, how you doing, Phil? I'm doing great. He says, are you playing the Ibanez you got from Sweetwater? It seems like a good candidate for the Evertune. It's behind me right now. I have not really... Oh, it's right there. I have not really played it very much. But that's not for any of the reason. Like I said, I've been traveling. I travel a lot right now. So you guys know I'm gone most of the time. I go out and then I'm back. To you guys every Friday, I'm back here, but I'm actually going and doing stuff and then I come back. So there's been a lot of stuff going on in the behind the scenes of the YouTube world. And so it hasn't been, played a lot, but it is in rotation for a video to come. So I will have a video on it. It is a cool guitar. I don't know if I mentioned this. It was something funny was Sweetwater shipped it to me and they put it in a case. And it's a fitted case. And when I got it, I was like, oh, cool. And I realized when I put my PRS Mira in it, they're the exact same. The Ibanez I bought and the Mira are the exact same shape. They're the exact same guitar. So I was like, well, I guess I really do like that Mira because I found, in fact, I was looking at it and I was like, man, I kind of feel like PRS should make a bolt-on version of this guitar and they make an SE Mira, but they should make an SE Mira like this was $230. Like I think it'd be cool if PRS made a $300, $299 PRS Mira bolt-on. I think it would do killer, right? Make it in the Cortec factory. But in the meantime, I think the Ibanez is the new Mira. So I was thinking about I told you guys, I don't know if I'm going to do a deep dive or sharpen my axe with it. If I do a sharpen my axe, I'm thinking about putting in some kind of lower output Mira pickups, kind of leaning into the whole, like, make it like a Mira thing. The reason why, and when I say I'm thinking about it, it's because which one to do is because lately, as you guys know, there's been some ideas on how to do some cool stuff in a giveaway. And you guys heard from earlier what the problem was right now with doing giveaways. You're bringing all the problems every time you do that. So it's been like, how are we going to do this? So that's why I said I'm hoping that these bot problems get fixed and these scammers get fixed and then we can go back. But right now I just feel like if I do some giveaways and videos, I'm inviting problems that, like I said, that maybe people get taken advantage of and have problems. So we'll figure it out. Music Therapy Laz, what's up? He says, gonna miss you while I'm gone. Wrote a song about it. goes like this. Oh, that's funny. And he put a bunch of musical notes. That's funny. Thanks, Laz. The Electric Ballroom says, I saw an old video where you talked about the guitar brands available in Tucson in your youth. Where were you shopping? Chicago store, LA Music, Rainbow? Sure. So he's asking about when I talk about the brands that you can only get in Tucson for the most part. So in Tucson, I grew up on the east side of Tucson, so there was Sticks and Strings. And so we'd go to Sticks and Strings, and they would carry like St. Louis music stuff. So Aria Pro, West Tone, the Alvarez, obviously Crate, Ampeg. That was like the whole heart of their store. That was those brands. And then you would go to Guitars Etc., which is on Speedway, and Guitars Etc. was like a PV dealer and Fender. So that was their big thing. They had a lot of Fender and a lot of PV. No Gibson, no other stuff. And Ibanez. They'd have Ibanez. So it's Ibanez, PV, Fender. And then Chicago Music Store, if you guys remember them back, anybody watching from Tucson, because there's people in Tucson, Chicago Music Store is like this crazy old store that had everything, but it was all thrown around and crazy. You'd go in there and you'd go in there and there'd be just everything, but it was thrown in. It was like a big junk kind of store. And they carried, I don't even know what they carried because it was just like used and new and it was all over the place. LA Music, I'm trying to think. I think there was a Mountain Music, and I think there was another one. Obviously Rainbow guitars, but I had never bought a guitar from Rainbow until just recently. It was my first time buying a guitar from Rainbow. Rainbow guitars, they were a douchey store back in the day. I think that was their goal. Do you guys remember, and then we'll end on this, because I think it's kind of like a sign of the times. Hold on a second as I refresh this. Hold on. We won't end totally on this because I got 2 other quick super chats to do. So no more super chats, please. But here's what happened I think I've told the story and I feel bad if I told it before. But when I turned 18, my mom gave me some money to go buy an amp, right? It was like going to be my big deal. Like it was like graduation. It was everything, right? And what happened was, and it was a lot of money. Like I can't remember. I want to say it was like $1,800. Like it was a lot of money. I just remember it was a big roll of $100 bills, right? And, and this is the thing about not only being young, but when you're young from like in Tucson versus like growing up in, California or New York or something, right? So what happened was I wanted a Marshall. This was all this was. I was in a band. I was playing in bands. And this was my grandfather had passed away. My mom inherited a little bit of money. And so one of the things that happened was she gave me this money to buy an amp. And it was because we played a show and the other guitar player in my band's amp was so much louder than mine. She's like, why is his amp so much louder than yours? I couldn't even hear you. And I go, I have solid state. He has tube. She didn't know what that meant. She's like, well, what do you need? And I go, I need a Marshall half stack. And she goes, okay. And the next day I got this wad of cash. And I was like, oh. And I was like, okay, so I guess I'm getting a new amp. So I got and drove across town to Rainbow Guitars. And this is why I said it's sign of the times. And I walk in, and I have this wad literally in my pocket, just a wad of cash. And I walk up, and there was a Marshall anniversary head. Do you guys remember the anniversary of the blue one? And it had in a cabinet. And it was like that. It was that price, like $1,500 for the head and cabinet. And I was like, okay, I'm getting this amp. So I'm standing there, right? I'm not touching. I'm just waiting for a salesman, right? Waiting for the salesman. Finally, some guy's like, he's walking by and he's like, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I want to buy this amp. And he goes, oh, well, we can't let you buy the amp unless you try it. And I go, okay, I'll try it. And he goes, we can't have you being loud in the store right now. So you'll have to come in on Monday. And he goes, because Mondays the store's closed, but it's only for appointments. And we all do an appointment. And I said, okay, I'll come in on Monday. And he goes, well, we're full of appointments, so we can't have you come in. And I'm like, okay. And, I'm 18. I don't know what to do. I'm an idiot. I'm not much different now, but at least I'm around. And so I go, it never occurred to me to just pull out the wad and go, but can I give you this wad of money and take this amp? And so it didn't occur to me. I'm just sitting there with like literally, like $1,800 in my pocket. And I go, okay. So he walks away, and I'm like I said, I don't know why to this day. I guess just young and dumb. I just didn't think like I could just wheel it over to the counter and throw cash. What are they going to say? No. But at the time I didn't know. So I went and got in my car and I drove back to my side of town because they're on the other side of town. And I went into the other music store, which was Sticks and Strings. And I walked in and they had a crate half stack of Stealth. And they had it it was the same price. And I go, hey, I want to buy that half stack. And they're like, okay. So I for the same price, I got 2 412 cabinets and a 100-watt Stealth head, which is a great amp. A lot of guys know the Stealth crate is one of the few good ones. They made some and so that's how I ended up with a crate full stack tube head, and because. And the reason I'm going to tell you this story is those are the stories that, and I've talked about like my first time I took my guitar for repair. Those are the stories that helped me when I decided to open a store, what I was after. I was like, man, I just want to be a store. And just like now, I want to be a place where we can talk about gear and there's no pretentiousness. There's no this stuff. I go, because it was just a different time back then, you know, the don't touch stuff, which now is like that. But I think it's hard for anybody that knows the Guitar Center where you can walk in and just touch everything, or knows the New World where you can order stuff online, to know it was just a different world back then. And some of it still exists now. I've walked into stores now, and there's some stores across this country, and you walk in, man, they just reek of that old vibe. Yeah. So that's, like I said, that was the only funny, there's actually more to the story. So fast forward, obviously that was 18, right? So fast forward years and years later, and I have the store. I'm at the NAMM show, and my Fender rep and I are talking. We're walking down the hallway at the NAMM show, and we're talking. And the manager of Rainbow, not the owner, the manager, he's there. And then my rep goes, hey, Phil, do you know this guy? And I didn't know him. He goes, oh, he's the manager at Rainbow Guitars. And I said, oh, yeah. And he goes, Phil, like, because he doesn't know, the rep goes, Phil used to live in Tucson when he was a kid. He probably went to your store all the time. And I said, he's like, oh, yeah? And I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, so do you know our store? And I said, yeah, I tried to buy a Marshall once with a cash, and you guys didn't want to sell it to me. And he goes, that sounded like us. And then we all laughed. And then he basically told me, yeah, we were kind of jerky back in the day. So I'm like, great. So like I said, I felt a little better. Like, okay, at least they knew it. Because I never knew to this day. I'm like, I just don't know why they were acting that way. Obviously, I know better now. They didn't think I had the money to buy the amp. That's what they were doing. They were just basically trying to get me to leave because they didn't think I had the money. So, but little do they know, you should always look at the big bulge in somebody's pocket, and maybe there's cash there. So anyways, Bradley says, hey, got over $100 off my new PRS acoustic AE60E just from asking. Thanks for your tip and confidence. Dude, thank you guys so much, not only for the super chat, but for reminding us of that stuff. And hey, my dog just came in. And then the last super chat is, what is the best head for the Hot Rod Deluxe 112 cab? The best head? I don't know. I will tell you what I like on that cabinet. The 2 amps I would definitely suggest to you if you're looking for that is obviously the Supersonic 22 head is a fantastic amplifier. Matches up with that cabinet nicely. And also, if you can find one, a 65 Deluxe reverb head. If you can't find that head, because they only made them for a limited time, you can buy the head box from Mojitone and convert any of the 65 Deluxe reverbs into a head. And so that will do that as well. And then because we got one last super chat and we're going to do it, Dustin Boggs says, Phil, thoughts on the Fender Richie Kotzen Telly? That is the absolute biggest neck you're ever going to play. I want you to picture the biggest neck you've ever played and then picture it bigger. I love that guitar, the Richie Kotzen. There's only two things that I think you should know. One, it's crazy how dramatic the drop off is from the bridge to the neck pickup. So when you play the bridge pickup, it's pretty powerful, right? It's really throttling out the amp and it sounds great. You go to the neck pickup, just volume dives off and it cleans up. If you have overdrive, it'll almost go clean. That's how different, dramatic those two pickups are from each other, which could be a thing, right? If you want that. I actually kind of thought it was a cool thing on the guitar because, like I said, I didn't even need to turn off an overdrive pedal, just switch pickups. That's something to know. That's not a big deal. But the neck, you can check online and look at the specifications. It's really crazy how chunky that neck is. I have a Gibson 59 reissue with a chunkier 59 neck on it. Some necks are a little worse than others, like how thick they are. This one's on the thicker side, and that Richie Kotzen's thicker than that. So that's the thing I would be aware of. If I was going to review one, that would be the thing I would convey over and over again. I can tell you it's probably close to the 59, which is probably what Richie was going for, a big chunky 59 Les Paul neck. And but it's definitely going to definitely going to be that big thing that you need to pay attention to if that's something you don't like. Other than that, if you think about getting one and that doesn't bug you, then you found the right guitar. On that note, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this Friday. As always, it's a highlight of the week for all of us. Hopefully, I can say for all of you. No, for all of us. And I will see you guys next Friday at 3:00. Look for the videos between the next week. Hopefully, I'll get contacted and the winner will get this pedal. Otherwise, we'll give it away next week. But I think he'll contact me. And as always, thanks so much for your time. Until next time, know your gear.